and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. Here we go, pedal down into March. In like an assassin and out like a shinobi. In like a shinobi and out like a samurai. That's what they say about. That's what they say about March.
Mm-hmm. Wait, so you're sneaking in and then you're bursting out?
I'm always bursting out, Alex.
I'm bursting out.
That's the song.
Just shoulder ramming your way through entire whole ass doors.
I've been shoulder ramming my way through entire ass doors my entire career, Brad.
Honestly, not as often as I would like to be.
We'll talk about that
Yeah.
in just a moment. Alex Navarro, how are you?
Oh, I'm just fine. I don't have a seatbelt on here. Should I be buckled up right now for
You
this,
should
for this
always be
podcast?
buckled up. Yes.
All
And
right.
keep your arms inside the gosh darn chair at all times. You know, you don't know what's
the gosh
happening.
dang. Okay, yeah.
The
all
gosh
right.
dang chair. Brad
Yeah, got
Shoemaker,
Hello.
welcome back from your trip to GDC. Ongoing, live from GDC. Brad Shoemaker.
Made some rounds yesterday, a little bit.
Can't believe you made it all the way out to San Francisco for that.
I know, right? It's a long
Man.
trip.
I heard it's
Awesome.
expensive out there.
Saw some people, played some games. You know, it was a thing.
That's what we're all here to do. See some
Yeah.
people play some games.
Yep.
That's the Game Developers Conference goes on. Maybe you can ask someone there what's going on with our YouTube compression. So you find a panel that talks about why it seems like our YouTube compression has.
Go find someone from Google and powerbomb them.
Some folks have mentioned it. I've seen it in a couple of places. I'm checking it out over the last few videos. It looks like the compression on our videos has gotten worse and worse and worse. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm changing around some stuff. That latest Assassin's Creed video that Alex, you and I recorded yesterday, the archive for that got real chewed up. And I mean, look, there's a lot of moving grass. There's a lot of wind blowing in that game.
There is, but I can tell you right now, that's not what it looked like when we were recording it.
Yeah, right. So like trying to figure out what's going on there. I'm dabbling with some stuff. I spent a long time looking to see what is going on, whether it's 1080p videos. This is more me just venting now. 1080p videos get the use one type of compression on YouTube. Stuff that's higher at 1440 or 4K get another. We do our videos obviously at 1080p. What the solution might be? Some people say they just upscale in like OBS to take 1080p in and then upscale to 1440. I was thinking maybe if that's the case to trigger the other, it might not even be a case of what's on their back end. It might be a case of what's delivered to you, which version of the file you get. Are you watching the embedded version? Do you have it on auto 1080p versus actual 1080p? So forcing YouTube to basically tricking the YouTube player to basically serve you the best available version of this file. That being said, if you see stuff changing, I might try and re-encode that
The AC video.
Assassin's Creed video. If you see it come down, I'm going to run some tests and go back up. That's probably me messing around with stuff. See if I can get a better version up there.
Encoding science.
I
hate it.
There was a time when I enjoyed it, messing around with my B-frames, but when it's out of your hands and you have to like trip a flag on a remote encoder, that seems kind of annoying.
Do you know your B frames from your I frames from your T frames?
Oh man, my look ahead frames, my right now frames.
What about my P frames?
Have you looked up what those mean?
I knew more at one point.
Like the B basically stands for between.
Yeah,
and I think the P is previous.
Oh gosh, I don't remember, but essentially what you're doing is like, how many times do I need to look at the video to figure out what I want to encode, right? Like, where am I putting a line in the sand? Was what I understood it of, and then how many frames am I looking ahead? How many frames am I looking behind? And all that stuff. Yeah. But there are actually in OBS, when I was going through these, changing my settings around, there are some new things. They've changed some stuff in newer versions of OBS. I also record in ProRes for hopefully a much nicer quality that we use. We'll see what happens. Yeah, so keep an eye out. Watch this space. If you see anything funky, always good to let me know. Thanks.
I love saying "watch this space." That's my favorite thing to do.
Watch this space. It's
I dumped a few stats on that Assassin's Creed video on our YouTube channel. There are no fewer than 5 different 1080p encodes listed here.
Yeah, and which one are you getting? Right.
Yeah, right. So I'm not sure that you can even tell once you're playing the video which one they're serving you. So my hunch is that it might be sort of device specific what you're watching on,
or even maybe embed or native player specific, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully we get that up. And again, if you see that video go down and back up again, or like the views go down or something weird like that, luckily, thank you patrons, we don't have to like worry about taking down a video and losing its views and stuff like that and being like, hey, we're gonna lose all the money, we're ruined. So I just want the best quality thing.
They don't give us any money.
They don't give us any money. But that's a lot of how I spent my last night and this morning looking at that stuff.
YouTube is basically a giant couch that we find some coins in between the cushions of.
Look, we decided early on, and this might change because who knows, that we did not want to play the YouTube game, which,
you know, frequent topic of discussion yesterday as I ran into various media types.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, boy, the media landscape has changed. You may have heard.
Every 5 years.
Yep. I mean, I don't need to belabor it, but yeah, like everybody in our space is constantly thinking about algorithms and crowdfunding and audience expansion and retention now. You know, like the days of just writing a video game review and posting it and moving on with your life are so long gone that I'm not sure they ever existed.
It's hard to remember.
No, it did happen. I can promise you that time did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's again, very thankful for the patrons who make up, I'm going to say 90 to 95% of the money we operate on.
Yeah. I mean, I legit got to say to a couple different people yesterday, like, you know, like we are very fortunate that we don't have to necessarily worry about finding ways to bring 20-year-olds into our audience because we have a very supportive, dedicated community.
Yeah, not that we don't want to bring 20-year-olds in,
right.
But I think we don't want to. Look, when we play Fortnite with Will Smith, we're not playing because we want to bring 20-year-olds into our audience. So those
I don't know if you've met a modern 20-year-old.
I was going to say those people are probably now 35 and 40-year-olds. 20-year-old is probably like Fortnite, whatever, old man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, the bigger point, though, is just like cross-generational appeal is a nut that people have a very hard time cracking, you know, like it's just different demographics are looking for such different things that nigh on impossible to appeal to everybody.
There's something I respect wholly about people who are in that YouTube grind because it's very hard for me. I probably wouldn't do this. Like I don't think I could do it. I couldn't do the thumbnail thing.
No,
I couldn't do the like exasperate. And there was a time when I would just mock it. I think I'm over that because I understand those people are working very hard to just scrape a living together on there and doing what they feel like is necessary. But there are just so many.
And look, before anyone at home starts saying the only reason you're not willing to play the thumbnail game is because you're not hot enough, you're right.
No, you're wrong.
No, you're right. I'm not hot enough for that.
What if you cycled through a lucha mask in every thumbnail?
Oh, yeah. It might be hard to get.
Can I start charging lucha masks to the company because that maybe I could write them off that way?
Like rebrand as the masked gamer or something?
Look, you're saying some shit here that I have in fact thought of at various times in my life. I am not doing that because my face has been on the internet for too long for it to matter. But I have thought about it.
The show where Alex is surrounded by 3 people in masks and it's the masked gamer. And who's this person who's so good at Bloodborne? It's Rudy Giuliani. Who knew?
I regret to inform you that the video where I'm surrounded by 3 masked men is not for anyone under 18. That's on my OnlyFans. That's the only way you're going to get it.
There's your OnlyFans joke. Mm-hmm. We were talking about the social media environment. We had to get there eventually. Anyway, long way of saying, again, if you notice anything better, worse, you can feel free to ping me.
If it's better, tell us. If it's worse, don't tell us.
No, you tell me. I need to know. It's good to know. Played a lot of Assassin's Creed. Should we get into it?
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
That game seems pretty great.
No, it's pretty terrible, actually.
It's
a garbage game.
I'm trying to think how I want to phrase this. I think it's better than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
for sure. Yeah.
I can wholeheartedly agree with that, but I think I more agree with Brad in that I think that game's pretty great, actually. So
it's got some very good qualities to it, for sure.
I think we're in an interesting position where we probably all have different relationships with Assassin's Creed. Brad, have you've been flitting in and out of the series?
Yeah, but the Syndicate was the last one I played, which is kind of like the last traditional Assassin's Creed in the vein of like 1, 2, Brotherhood, etc. And then I somehow just didn't play Origins, Odyssey, or Valhalla.
Okay.
Or Mirage.
Although Mirage is kind of straddling the line where it is sort of more a traditional one, right? But like I've kind of missed this. Like, I feel like now people just make the Witcher comparison, right? This sort of trilogy of Assassin's Creed games, they're just kind of chasing the Witcher thing.
By Odyssey, the Origin Odyssey.
The Origins trilogy or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I think they caught it a while ago. Like, they were chasing it, and then they caught it, and then they didn't know what to do with it after they caught it.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Shadows so far, and so that left me wondering, is that because I didn't play these previous games that are like this and didn't have a chance to burn out on the like massive scope of those things, or is it actually better than those? I can't say.
I mean, it depends on the one you're talking about. Like, I still think Origins is a fantastic game. I think the ones that came after were less so because they just kept getting bigger and the stories got less interesting. Valhalla certainly ended on a note, though I'm still up in the air as to whether I think it's good or not. But yeah, I mean, granted, none of us have finished this game. We are all between, I'd say, roughly 8 and 15 hours into it. But my initial impression of it, the thing, and I think we said this during the stream yesterday, Vinny, the thing it reminds me of, not necessarily in mechanics, but just kind of where it places itself in kind of the lineage of these sorts of games, is actually Black Flag.
Yeah.
Specifically, it's coming after a big chunk of these games and a big chunk of narrative that is all kind of connected and all kind of part of its own big thing. The Desmond, it was technically a trilogy, but also there were 2 other games on top of that, whatever a 5-ilogy is.
Quintilogy?
That finished. Yeah. And then they had to go somewhere, and where they went was Black Flag, which I think is actually one of the best ones of those games. And now here, they're kind of done with the Origins to Valhalla trilogy, and now they're kind of, and they're kind of on to like literally 1,000 years in the future from where those games were. And so now they're kind of into a new space where they kind of have to figure out what they're doing. And even if this is like kind of a one-off, like they're just treading water until they figure out what the next big narrative arc is, that's fine, because it seems like as a one-off, they're approaching this very similarly to Black Flag, which is they are making a game that is just standalone, fun Assassin's Creed, crazy shit in a setting that is novel, and certainly one that has been demanded a lot over time.
When you talk about like the ongoing narrative, like are you talking the Abstergo Animus, like outside of the simulation stuff?
I'm
like
talking the larger Earth problem thing that is sort of connects whatever storyline they have going.
Yeah, so like I'll say for my part, I really loved Assassin's Creed 2, the 2 this is really weird.
You love your Ezio, I know.
The 2 trilogy, probably my high point in it. Black Flag, also a high point. I dabbled in Syndicate and
Unity,
but they never hooked. Syndicate I did kind of like. I played it on stream a bunch.
Yeah, Syndicate was fun. Unity was not good.
Yeah, so like,
and then a bummer. I'm just gonna say right now, that's such a bummer to me. For one thing, I think that game's being reappraised a little bit since they fixed it and stuff. Like people go back to it now and be like, this thing was like way ahead of its time technologically for what other games were doing at the time. But also, the French Revolution is such an amazing setting for an Assassin's Creed game. Like it's kind of a bummer that they burned that one on the game that came out like barely functional.
Definitely a rough launch. That was a memorable moment in the Assassin's Creed series. But I think by the time I finished up with 4, Assassin's Creed had worn out enough of its welcome, or like had started to get pretty stale. Yeah, and especially with the story stuff. I think with the Desmond narrative stuff, it felt like they had reached their conclusion, but then they just kept going, right? And Black Flag, like you said, Black Flag was not only just fun, them seeming to have fun with the concept and the mechanics of it, but also with their Animus stuff. That's the one, remember, they were like in the Abstergo building and like, you're doing all that nonsense and they're like, we're just making video games. It was goofy and fun.
Yeah.
I think the Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla stuff, I liked Origins. I definitely was cold on it at first, and I warmed up to it the more I played it.
I had the exact same arc with that game.
Yeah. But I never liked the loot arc in Origins. I think this got better in Valhalla, from what people have told me.
Yeah, they toned it down a bit because Odyssey was the one that got really stupid with it.
I think the kind of less city-based open world traveling between the city stuff I didn't love as much. I had my issues with it. It wasn't the type of Assassin's Creed I really was coming back to. Mirage, I think, was just a bad game.
Yeah, it was very mediocre.
So this game for me, is definitely not a return back to where they were with the Ezio stuff in 2. It's probably more like Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. But I'm a sucker for this ninja stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it just is such a good fit. I think both of you may have said this at different times when we were talking about this, but like, yeah, finally you just have the ninja in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Because like the whole assassin motif from the beginning was basically just like pan-cultural ninjas, right? Like in terms of everything from the hood to the throwing blades to the hidden blade, like the climbing on roofs, like it was literally just a ninja fantasy
100%.
from day one.
And again, they went to the trouble of making French ninjas before they ever got around to making actual Japanese ninjas, which when you say it out loud sounds kind of insane.
Now, like, right, look, I'm sure somebody can sit and they want to have an argument. That's fine with me about, right, like the opposite of what you guys are saying. Be like, all these cultures had their secret societies and they're
very few of them did parkour, however.
Culturally appropriate ninja. But really, it's kind of a ninja wish fulfillment thing going
100%.
And some of it got stupid, remote controlled arrows, and like all that stuff, bending.
It's all stupid, Vinny. It's Assassin's Creed. All of it is stupid.
All of it is kind of
the first one. I always felt for the first one takes itself pretty seriously.
And that's why it's one of the least good ones.
Well, I like that one. It's pretty boring at parts, and they learned a lot from that.
I didn't say it was terrible. I said it was least good.
But it's also very somber, and like the tone of that first one. And this one also pretty somber, at least. Again, I'm like Alex said, 15 to 20 hours in, and it's still a pretty somber trapping on it. Like, you're in this revenge tale. It's pretty cliche. There's nothing like too wild that's going on. The animus stuff so far for me is very in the background. The Abstergo stuff, if it's even there, is in the background.
It occasionally bubbles up, but so far it's barely a background element.
And I think you mentioned this again, Alex, on the stream we did, but they're not being too precious about their, like, hey, what really would a shinobi do in Japan? You're like,
totally.
Okay, no, look, like, you want the fantasy more than what the reality probably was.
I mean, the way they seem to be approaching it is with a certain level of respect, which is to say they are not just doing the most hokey fucking Godfrey Ho ninja shit they can, but they are also, look, I don't know the full, historicity of, like, all things shinobi and ninja. But what I do know is that I do believe shinobi were employed at various times as, for spycraft, for assassinations, things like that. Whether they had their own secret society, whether they tie into the narrative the way they do in this game, I don't fucking know. Doesn't really matter, because the way they're approaching it is basically the way they approach all history in all of these games, which is to say they are pulling real world figures. Sometimes they are turning them into Templars or whatever their equivalent is for this game. And then occasionally you have to murder one of them or one of them gets murdered.
Yeah, so this one takes place, if you don't know, during the Nobunaga's ambition.
It's the 1500s, yeah.
Yes, Nobunaga is here, and he's quite ambitious.
He's extremely ambitious. And you have your two characters, one Yasuke, who is a samurai. Again, not really fleshed out so far, so some of this I'm just picking up from the pre-release materials. But it sounds to me like he's a slave by way of Portuguese traders,
or missionaries. Yeah,
he's brought there by the Portuguese missionaries who are there is an ongoing missionary mission in Portugal, which is also a trade mission on top of that. But yes, he is the sword bearer for a particular high-ranking Portuguese priest.
Runs into is it Oda?
Oda Nobunaga.
Oda is the elder, the lord.
And Oda is basically like, fuck that shit. Work for me. Like,
pretty rapidly.
Yeah, pretty. At least in the context of this game, right?
I mean, he basically trades for him the way that the New York Jets traded for someone. It's just literally like, yeah, no. We'll let you go run around, do your priest shit, but you're giving me Yasuke.
Yeah, I really liked the intro. The game opens with Yasuke's plight for what, 20, maybe half an hour before it gets to Naue.
Roughly, yeah.
You guys are further in than I am, but I don't know that this is different for you. I have not seen him again since the intro. Like, I am shocked at how little he is in this game so far, because I really was expecting kind of half and half. And based on the little I saw of him, I think his story might be a little more interesting than Naue's, but although hers is actually for a pretty straightforward revenge plots, has also got me hooked pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the somberness. I think even the murder and revenge aspect of the story does not feel too maudlin or sad. Like the big musical sting that happens when she's like crying over her father's dead body is like the most like 70s Toho fucking like Sonny Chiba fucking samurai movie music ever. So like they're not trying to hammer you too hard with that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're I'm not saying they're going for a tonally like, hey, we want you weeping in your seat, like you should feel like they're not going for
I did feel something when that happened, but it's not like oppressive.
Well, what was the American one? Was that was 3? 4?
That was 3.
3. Like that had a very that character was just not fun to play, right? Like it was like and like then you go to Black Flag and you're like, this guy's just having a good time. It's a murder good time.
This guy's just a chucklehead.
Now he's like kind of in between. She's obviously extremely serious about her mission to this vengeance mission. So she's not an Ezio or she's not the I don't remember.
She's
the
not
Black
fucking
Flag
around, but at the same time, like she has other aims beyond just the revenge.
But like, yes, the tone is a little like, hey, we're still going to have a good time here with our ninja stuff, right? Like, you know, she doesn't just turn into a log and vanish, but like, it's not that far away from some of that stuff. So I'm really enjoying the kill to kill action in this game. As Naoe, the kind of more assassin stealth character, I have not seen Yasuke. I've seen from a distance Yasuke.
He showed up in a cutscene that happened as I was going through her flashback quests, but it's the same cutscene you see at the beginning of the game where he goes through his tutorial mission.
Right, like they let you play him at the beginning to kind of get you a little used to his combat style, but then he's just been absent from the gameplay to the point that I really had to start questioning as I was playing this. Like, is she just the actual protagonist of this? Like, is that how this always was actually conceived and they didn't make that clear in the pre-release preview and marketing stuff, that like she's the person you're going to spend 80% of your time playing and he just weaves in and out of the story and gameplay? Or what? Like, I really, like I said, I really was expecting a lot more balance between the two.
So when I played the preview event a few months ago, the way they framed it was they gave me the intro sequence basically up until Naoe's father dies. And then they skipped us ahead about 20 hours in the game to where they are both together and doing stuff. And what they said to me was a couple of things. One, they treat Yasuke as very much the easy mode of the game, which is to say he is a brute strength character who can just plow through enemies and do a lot of damage, whereas Naoe is the more traditional Assassin's Creed, you know, sort of stealth and subterfuge character. The other thing they said to me, and so I'm kind of extrapolating based on what they told me, is that, you know, they did a lot of testing with Yasuke. They found, you know, that people really like the character. I have this feeling that somewhere along the development track, they realized people really liked Yasuke and he was not a playable character. Like, he was a central figure in the story, but I have a feeling they may have made him into a playable figure within the game somewhere in the development cycle past where, you know, they started from. Because if he's taking this long to get in the story, and some of the reviews I've read said that Naoe really does feel like the main character, I have a feeling that he was a late addition, that they thought this character was fucking cool and they thought people would want to play as him.
Yeah, I mean, like, stripping all of the dual narrative stuff away and just looking at the gameplay, I mean, she is the assassin character in this.
100%.
Like 1,000%. Like, she's the one with the climbing and the grappling hook and the parkour, and
she literally has the hidden blade.
Right, like she's the one with the hidden blade. She's got the eagle vision, eagle eye, whatever. Like,
she's in the MacGuffin story.
Right. Yes, like the Apple of Eden equivalent is in her family, etc. Like, she very much feels like, again, setting all narrative context aside, like the character that would be the main character, just to fulfill what people are looking for out of the gameplay of one of these games. So I guess it does make sense in that way.
And you know, we're not gonna get into real spoilers here. That setup for the story is pretty out there. I mean, like, look, that's just what happens here. I'm about 2 assassinations in, and I have to say it would probably be pretty hard for me to spoil anything because you're not really doing that much. That's like weaving this so far this complicated tapestry of a narrative. It's really a revenge story so far.
I mean, you're basically doing three things in this game. You are hunting down these 11 targets who are the, let's just say they are definitely Templar associated, would be my guess. They are the ones that killed Naoe's father and took the MacGuffin.
Yeah. Right. And they do the real, like, I don't know if comic booky is the right way to describe it, but they all wear masks, and so they all just have a name like what is it? The Fool,
right? Yeah.
The Elder, the
right.
Trying to think what some of the others are.
Yeah, they're the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants,
right,
like they have their distinctive visual flair and their particular signature weapon.
Like the Fox, I think.
Yeah. And there are some interesting things that have happened with who those characters are, or may or may not be. But really, like, it's a pretty generic table setting to go on your murder spree here.
Yeah.
Like, but it works for me. Like, I think I'm just having fun being a ninja. Like, I think I'm just enjoying that gameplay of it.
Yeah, and I'll say, so far, the 2 assassinations I've done, like, the setup for them is pretty good. And, like, the things you have to do to sort of, like, get close to your target and, like, kind of get up on them, like, there's a fair amount of work that you have to do to locate them, to take them down, all that kind of stuff. Like, it makes the assassinations feel fairly special.
Without being tedious, I think.
Without being tedious, yeah. And there was some, like, I think I could have shortcutted one of them if I had made a different choice than the one I made, but having to do the more complicated way actually felt better to me. But the other things you're basically doing, there's the whole ongoing narrative with, like, Yasuke and Oda and sort of like the larger warring states aspect of the story, which has barely factored in at this point. And then the last thing is you're building your ninja empire. Like, you're literally rebuilding Iga, which is the region that you were from and where the big, massacre took place from Oda's army. And you are taking some of the refugees and other people that you meet around the world and some of the pets that you meet around the world and bringing them into a base that you are building.
Yeah, there's some, like, full-on basic, like, simple base building of, like, I want to place these buildings in this big field. Like some of them connect together in different ways, and
I want as many different Akibas as you can give me.
Yeah, like, you can customize, mostly cosmetically, I think you can customize the buildings. I'm not sure if there's a lot of, like, functionality to customize there, but
I don't think so. I think it is all aesthetics.
Or you can just upgrade them, rather. You can upgrade each building almost... I shouldn't say RTS. I mean, it's not exactly that, but it's kind of like that. Like, you're placing buildings and then upgrading them to give your base better capabilities and resource generation and stuff.
It's kind of like a differently realized talent tree, right?
Yeah.
With a resource pool.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's always been something very cool to me about being able to place shape an environment from a sky high menu view and then immediately go down and run around in it and have everything be where you put it.
There's either that way, which is very satisfying to me, or you wind up with the dilapidated building first, and as you do the upgrade, it starts looking nicer. I also appreciate that. If people want to make that in their game, that's also very good for me. And they introduce or a slight twist on the assassin empire thing. You can recruit scouts in this game, and those serve a couple of different functions. One, they can more localize the area of your objective on the map to basically sometimes even pinpoint where a thing would be. Otherwise, you might start off with a very broad search area on a map to be like, your target is west of this town, south of this other town. They're somewhere in this vicinity. And you can burn a scout and it'll just be like, I found them. They're here. Yeah. And give you the icon, which is kind of cool.
And I think that makes scouts unavailable for a while, like until the season changes, right? Until
the season changes or you pay to refill them.
Right. Yeah. And then the other use for scouts I found is while you're hunting around places, you can find bundles of supplies for your base, and you can basically attach scouts to that bundle. And then at the end of the season, they will claim that resource for you, and then you'll get it back. The seasonal stuff, I think I'm in winter now. It really hasn't played aside from refreshing the scouts and refreshing factions and stuff on the map and things like that. I haven't really noticed that much. I'm sure winter will be much different, but
it feels a little half-baked.
Yeah, well, they make a show
looks
of
great.
It. Yeah.
I think the seasonal stuff looks fantastic, but as far as like its functionality, it feels maybe slightly half-baked.
Like, the big example I keep seeing is like, a lot of the bodies of water are frozen, so you can run across them in winter, and I'm sure there's like, in fall you have better sight lines because the trees are bare and stuff like that. But I don't know how gameplay relevant it gets. I mean, I appreciate it just as window dressing though.
Yeah,
it
looks great.
I love an environment that feels alive, and like that's a great way to get more variety and kind of verisimilitude to what you're seeing and exploring. Like the Just the time of day and weather stuff also looks fucking incredible in this game. Like, this is one of the better looking games I have seen in a while.
I mean, if you want a world that's alive, man, there is no aspect of it that is not windswept and full of leaves and fucking just like 17 different critters skidding around under you. Like, it feels, I mean, it's very stagey, but at the same time, like, it's still pretty fucking beautiful.
Yeah, like I've gotten into just some random roadside fights where it was like the sun was about to set and then all of a sudden a thunderstorm came up, you know, and it's like, man, this feels like I'm playing some kind of like a ninja movie all of a sudden, you know, like this has gotten very dramatic. And again, like you said, like a very like stage managed kind of way, but still like it's capable of producing some really exciting scenes with all those things coming together in a way that feels a little more natural than Ghost of Tsushima did. I mean, we don't have to like compare the two games constantly.
I think you do have to, though, to some degree, because they are very clearly angling at similar things.
Like that game had a lot of scenes where they very clearly designed the entire environment around you to give you some samurai movie looking visual of like running through a field full of like tall flowers and kind of like running your hand along them and from atop your horse. You know, this game feels a lot more just like naturalistic environments where the scenery, the vistas are just happening because that's how the landscape is, not because they wanted to create a cinematic moment.
Right.
And I do appreciate in this game, you can just dip into the woods and run through them. Like, it doesn't actually artificially block you from running into a forest. You can stumble and not.
There's certain terrain you can't climb.
Yeah,
There's like insurmountable terrain.
Steep. Yeah.
It's too steep. Yeah.
I did find that starting area. I'm sure this changes because the map is freaking huge and there's plenty of variety to the topography, I'm sure. But that first area you start in, there's a lot of really tight like mountain pathways. Like you can't just run in that initial starting area. You have to kind of pretty carefully pick your way around these tight pathways.
But I will say, if you do wind up in a situation where you're trying to run up and you slide back down, you can probably take your horse up there, which I've done a couple of times, and the horse will actually be able to get up that steep hill. But there are times where I just like, oh, they're just going to block me from going into this bamboo forest. And you just run in there, I can't see anything.
Well, you can also cut that bamboo.
You can also cut it. Of course, you've got a katana and there's bamboo.
This game's got some really good physics to it as well. Like there's cutting bushes and bamboo and stuff down, but there's also like banners in your like a little camp fighting like Nobunaga goons or whatever. Like they have these like big standards and banners and cloth drapery everywhere, and the katana cuts through that stuff really like exactly, 1-to-1 where you slice the sword is where it's getting cut. And that's like cool tech, but I've also just had that happen when I had like 5 guys on me backing me into a corner and I'm just kind of desperately flailing around with the sword. And like, I've literally had it where like there was like a low sunset and I actually like slashed through that cloth, like trying to fight guys. And then all of a sudden the sun comes streaming through like the big hole you just cut in the cloth.
Pop your photo mode.
Like, yeah, like it again leads to some really nice looking stuff.
So I think that environmental stuff looks great. I think a lot of the action is fun. The facial animations can be really stiff.
Yeah,
at times.
Pretty bad, actually.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Not super great. And especially when they're doing their dramatic cutscenes and stuff.
It's the eyes.
Yeah, like there's some like very stiff and mouth. Like it just seems like there's some stiffness in the face that pulls you back out a little bit. It's not the best.
There's some stiffness in the performances too. I mean, you're playing on the immersive audio track, which is the Japanese and Portuguese, and then the only stuff that's in English is like the Animus stuff that crops up from time to time. I'm playing the English dub because I figured that was probably the track they put the most like directorial work into, just to kind of see how it was.
Yeah, I also struggled with that decision, but I went for the English as well.
So I've tried both now. And I don't think either is really better than the other. I think the performances are just a little flat in general. There's a little bit of, I mean, at least on the English side, which is the one I've spent the most time with, I think Naoe, outside of that big cutscene where she has her big dramatic moment with her father, there just isn't a lot of oomph to that performance. And I mean, the character is not supposed to be like super outwardly emotional, but at the same time, like there are some scenes where I feel like she's just kind of talking through stuff and not really having a conversation. And there's a fair amount of that also in the NPCs and like, quest givers and things like that. Like there are a few I've kind of noticed and felt like, okay, there's something here. The guy who plays Hattori Hanzo has a certain dramatic flair that I appreciate, but there's also like the other side of that is that a lot of these NPCs are exactly the kind of shrieking dorks that they have had in these games for ages. Like guys who are just like, you want to buy my wares? Like that kind of shit.
Right. I lost my wallet. I Look, there's some of the side quest stuff there. I've had maybe 2 or 3 side quests that I'm like, this is a pretty fun one. I don't know if you did the butterfly one. I thought that was like a pretty good one.
I haven't done the butterfly one. I've done a handful here and there. The side quest writing is also mostly fairly not good from what I've encountered. Like, it's not just that it's kind of boilerplate, because I mean a lot of these side quests in AC games have been that way for a long time. It's that they somehow feel more boilerplate than even the last few. Like, it feels like they are skipping pieces of dialogue just to get you through it faster, because like sometimes you'll come back from a quest and be like, oh, you got that thing. Here's the thing. Okay, bye. And it's like, oh, that's it?
Well, I did.
Okay.
I mentioned this on the stream because I thought it was hilarious. But you can just go off on your horse, start raiding the towns, the castles, do whatever, open the chest, get whatever, and occasionally get a thing that's like, this is a quest item. And you're like, all right.
That happened to me in Osaka Castle. I went and did all of Osaka Castle, and I got some kind of quest, and I was like, I'm probably not supposed to be here yet, am I?
Right. And you're like, kind of thing. So I did a bunch of that, and then I met this guy. I'll just retell this story. It was on the stream, but I met this guy, and he was like, just so melodramatic. I could never go back to that person. I was supposed to guard this statue with my life, and they took the statue, and the shame of it all. And I can't. And if I could only get this statue back, and whatever. And then it just cuts back to now, and she's like, "You mean this statue?" And he's like, "Oh, all right, you got your army."
Shit, awesome.
Which was, I thought, kind of hilarious because they clearly had written a line for her to be like, "Oh, you mean this thing?"
I feel like games are finally doing that.
Yeah,
I feel like the last several times I've run into that situation, and like Avowed, I think does it as well. Like the classic, like somebody just sent you on a quest for a thing you've already happened to find. Like they're finally starting to really account for that.
Or like you killed those guys already. Like, no, they're dead. Like, well, shit. Let's go to work. So I thought that was fun. This game is by far not perfect for me. I think it's a lot of fun though. The contracts I'm finding, I'm already starting to burn out and be like, oh, it's just another go just kill these bandits in a camp.
Don't do those unless you happen to be in the area.
So if I'm in the area, but the thing is, like, I'm just having fun with the mechanics of the game. So like, that's not that bad. And I think you saw me on the stream get it. Whatever, I forget what it's called. Brad, maybe you know, the like sickle on a chain attached to the big iron ball. Yes. That thing is wrecking guys in a way that I'm like, damn, okay, this thing, I get caught now, and it just bursts through their armor, and they just go down very quickly, and it's a lot of fun. Which is very
funny, because that's a peasant weapon. Like, that is a weapon that was used by farmers, because they weren't allowed to use real swords.
That thing is sick, and it's a lot of fun to use. The game on normal is pretty easy, and if you watched me stream yesterday, you could see how forgiving it is. If you can get back into cover or lose guards. The AI is exceptionally dumb. You could get back.
It's dumb the way the last few have been, for sure.
I guess exceptionally dumb, but maybe not exceptional for an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah.
But everybody can see you be running after you, watch you kill 7 guys, and then you can hide in a bush 5 feet away, and they'll be like, shit. Where'd she go? They'll go through the bushes a bit, but if you're you can just keep moving around, get back up on a roof, and then jump down and kill them, which I'm okay with.
I found some of that stuff just kind of lends itself to the ninja fantasy. Like there's been a couple of cases of like either just like the little roadside encampments of 5 Oda or Nobunaga guys, or like there was like an oil trading little place in Kyoto, I think, if you know where I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Numerous occasions of me like just kind of cackling as I like dart in and like loot a chest or like tag all the resources for my scout to come get, while the dudes are just bumbling around like idiots, and then I just run back out without even fighting anybody.
And even if you fight a guy, you can kill a guy and then just hide behind a house for a little bit, and
I've been killing lots of guys.
Yeah, but they have some decent balancing things and tuning things where, hey,
I think the armor thing is like a good balancing point, because it makes the heavies feel more notable in the sense that like you actually have to have a strategy and approach to dealing with samurai, because if you would take them on from the front, you are going to be at a disadvantage.
Yeah, like you can't just assassinate them, and they've got all that armor to get through, and they do a lot of damage. Like I've died a few times. Like it's nice to actually feel like the combat is pretty challenging and you take a lot of damage from people.
But there's even once you can, the upgrade tree for the assassin, this is something I used to hate, but I actually think I'm either come around on it and softened, or they're doing it in a better way. You can upgrade your hidden blade to take more and more segments off of health. But even on the armored guys, if they're aware of you, and they telegraph this very well, and I'm not having a problem with the colorblind stuff in it. If they're yellow, I think it's yellow or green. When you go to assassinate them, they will basically deflect you, right? They will.
Yeah,
and
they'll grab your arm.
Yeah, or you're not going to kill them all the way. But if they're red, you can't even assassinate. They will just like shove you to the ground.
Yeah.
Which is, sometimes when they're not aware, you can just jump up and assassinate them. But if they're hunting for you, they're going to grab your arm and throw you away, which I think is fair. I think that's like a thing I can be, okay, sure, I'm not going to get away with this. And I've just tried to upgrade that hidden blade all the way as fast as I can. They have an interesting, I don't know if this was the same in Valhalla, tech tree where you get upgrade points based on what experience level you are, but you also need to level up the tier in which you can put those points by getting things called knowledge points. So you can have 25 upgrade points, but you can't put any of them into tier 2, 3, 4, 5 stuff until you've done other things to get knowledge points. I'm not exactly sure. They usually will tell you like, hey, pray at the shrine and you'll get a knowledge point. I'm like, okay. I'm not sure when I'm getting knowledge points for
I think
main
completing
stuff.
the temples also, like if you find all the hidden pages or whatever, it is that's in those various temples, I think that will contribute to that as well.
Yeah. So kind of just related to this game and where it is versus new and old stuff. They still do numbered enemy, like level on the enemy.
Yeah.
Right?
That level seems to scale with you.
Scales. Yeah. Generally for where you are, it'll be like, this is going to be, cause like if you went to like Osaka Castle, right? At level 5, they might be level 7. If you went there at level 13, they might be level 15.
Oh, so how? But the zones on the map have level like hard coded level requirements or thresholds on them. So like how do those two things work together? Because those sound contradictory.
If I had to guess, they are probably creating an enemy like tiering floor for people in that area. So if you go there, you're going to run into level 20 enemies minimum, no matter what. But if you're there at the earlier stage, or if you go there later, you will be leveled up alongside with them. That
seems like an interesting way to split the difference on level scaling. Like have that threshold.
Yeah. Like this is going to be at your level. This is always going to be a little.
Yeah, like we're never going to let you just one shot old enemies, but you will have harder ones that you can't deal with. Until
maybe
you
it could also be that the heavies are specifically weighted that way. I don't really know because I haven't been outside that starting area yet.
Yeah, and again, this is mostly anecdotal for me, just seeing what's been happening in the world. Like, oh yeah, these guys were 7 before. Now I feel like they're 12 or 13 or 14. I did go down. Okay, I don't know if you guys spent any time doing this, but there's basically a free battle pass in the game, right? And and it's buried in there.
Is that the legacies? I think they're called.
Yeah, there's like projects.
Oh God,
anomalies, legacies.
We haven't even talked about the way this game boots up and how you basically boot up to like an Animus interface.
So you mean I think that's Assassin's Creed? What is it, Infinity or whatever that thing they were working on?
This absolutely feels like a prototypical version of Infinity or whatever that is. Because like I don't know if you guys tried this. You boot it up and it basically dumps you into a launcher that defaults to Shadows, but if you scroll through, it's got every game since Origins listed as well, and you can go like watch old lore videos from them and stuff like that. But if you install those old games, you can also launch those games from this same launcher. I went and installed Origins and Odyssey, and you can just straight up use this game. I don't know why you'd want to do that ever, but you totally can.
Or it'll ask you to buy it. And if
you don't own it, it will send you straight to the store.
A little bummed it doesn't show everything in there because I do personally like the timeline of scrolling through there. Maybe that means they're going to re-release some other version of the Ezio collection.
They would never do that
to work in this launcher at some point. But yes, and then in that kind of UI section of the game, specifically for Shadows, there's this battle pass thing, right. And at some point in the game, you can start hunting down these like Animus anomalies or whatever they are in the game. Holy cow! They put them at opposite corners of the map, and I was like, "All right, I want to try one of these. I want to see what's going on here." Got on my horse. It was like a really long run to go get this thing, and it was just all skulls. All enemy skulls along the entire thing. One-shotted me every time I would touch one. But it was basically just a thing in a chest that got me some, I think they call keys. No, they're fragments, which you use to unlock keys from the battle pass, which gets you to the monetization side of things. And that stuff looks icky. I have not engaged
it's Ubisoft,
with it.
I would expect that.
And I probably will not, but...
Is there anything to pay money for?
Yes.
In there? Like, there is. Okay, because I'm pretty sure I read the legacies, the battle pass things are all free and not time limited. Those are just there to do. But yes, there is that shop that literally cycles the inventory out every 12 hours or whatever it is, and in that case, maybe you can pay money.
And they've had that for a while.
I don't want to speak out of turn. Look, I didn't actually hit the button to go to the store to see if you could just directly buy keys. I really just am assuming you can. So my apologies if I'm wrong, but there is stuff in there that looked like it was just for sale.
They do want you to give them money at some point after you bought the game. I think what you said, like there is certain stuff that is tied to those passes that you do not have to pay for.
No, the battle passes you seems like you can get by doing those, grabbing those fragments in the game, and that's what progresses you along that path on the battle pass, which will get you keys and other armor and stuff like that. And then there's the store, which you can use keys to buy stuff, but I think you can also... I'm assuming you can pay real money. Apologies again if that's wrong. It really looks like a thing where you could pay real money. Yeah. If they're not, I'd be shocked.
It also just feels like I've been getting so much loot anyway, just playing the game, that I wouldn't even care if that were in there, because like I have more. The loot is gated by your level. It's like if you've got a level 6 sword and you're level 4, you can't equip it yet. Like I've already got multiple.
Wait, that's not
swords.
True. Wait, you can equip a higher level sword.
What is it based on my story progress then? Because right now every sword I have that's above my level, it's like red. The number is red, and it says like item equipping not allowed or something like that.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten the blacksmith yet, so I don't know if that.
Interesting. I haven't run into that. I mean,
still haven't gone to get the blacksmith, so I don't have like a weapon upgrading facility in my base yet. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Maybe. I don't know. I've never run into that. I mean, I'm not actually, I'm not saying that didn't happen to you. Of course that's, it just never happened to me. And I was just on the stream saying to Alex, like, oh, it's interesting. Sometimes I'll get stuff drop 2 levels above me versus upgrading the thing up to my level. Cause you can only, once you get the blacksmith, you can only upgrade up to your level. So there is a slight incentive to still get gear, because gear will drop slightly above your level.
I probably need to push the story forward more. I don't know if it's gating something there, but regardless, like, just the amount of loot I'm getting already.
Yes, it's
like it feels like. I mean, I'm sure there may be some uniques in those chests or that
in the battle pass,
right? But like, I certainly don't feel like I am like wanting for like loot lusts.
No, but you might want this game. Cool Animus sword. Like, the loot is something I'm not super happy about. Like, it's probably more Origins than I would like, or more later Assassin's Creed, where it does feel like, look, once I get my unique, I keep that on, and I basically keep that on and level that up until I get something better. And the rest is just gear trash. I'm breaking it down. And I'm just getting, I don't think there's an inventory problem necessarily. I haven't hit one yet. I don't think there's a problem with it filling up in a weird way. Some of the UI is a little tedious in transferring and breaking stuff down.
It's a little bit slow to load like the inventory page and stuff.
And like breaking stuff down, I think you have to have it in your inventory and not in your stash, which is a bit of a bummer from what I've found so far. But I'm just grabbing stuff and not even looking at it.
Yeah,
because I'm like, it's a common.
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares? Just I'm going to break it down. And it does seem like some of that stuff maybe is randomly generated with like, the name of the loot and the stats on it. I can't tell for sure. But the uniques have special abilities on them. And I feel like if you're not using those, I just, the abilities on those unique things and legendary items are just too useful, where I feel like I would never swap it out, even for a slightly more powerful uncommon or something like that. Unless it was like some amazing weird roll or a god roll of something. But like one of the abilities on I forget what it is, maybe it's a talisman or something, is like after you assassinate somebody, you can hit somebody with your throwable weapon, which used to be like a skill in Assassin's Creed. I'm like, that's really useful if you need to one-shot somebody and kill them. So I don't know, man. It's the gear is not doing it for me so much. I mean, it looks cool.
As soon as you start getting into decimal percentages on stats, I'm like, you're too far along with this stuff for me. Like, I think that they would probably be benefited by just streamlining a lot of this stuff in the future, because I don't care about a lot of it. It's not interesting to me. The most interesting items are just those big ones that you get. Like everything else just feels like a waste of my time.
And they do a thing. I believe this is in this game. I'm getting a little confused here with Avowed, but I'm pretty sure this is in where you could just use the visual.
Yes, you can use the visual style.
If you
of
just
another
like the
thing.
way it looks. So,
can you? I haven't seen that.
There is an option in there somewhere to do that.
Which makes it seem like more like, hey, do you just like the cosmetic of this? This is kind of why you're getting this.
If you want to keep the stats of this other thing, that's fine.
It's the game for me on normal is not hard enough where I feel like I'm making a specific build, like I'm making a poison build or something like that.
No, it does require a little bit of thoughtfulness, but generally speaking, you can just kind of blaze your way through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess I should say it doesn't seem like gear builds are necessarily the thing that are going to push you past the point here.
No.
I built a Dex build or whatever it is. But generally, having a good time. It hasn't worn out its welcome yet. I still just like creeping around, stabbing guys through doors, assassinating, getting caught, hiding, doing the loop. I'm enjoying it. I think it's a fun game to run around in, to steal a term there. The run around's real good, beautiful.
My litmus test for do I like your open world or not is am I constantly fast traveling, or do I get more out of taking an actual journey from place to place? And this is very much the latter for me. Like, I am enjoying the experience of just riding or running from place to place. I'm enjoying being in that world. Most of the characters I've met have been fun, at least, they're not all super interesting, but I feel like there's at least distinct personalities to them, especially the ones that are back at your base. And I feel like I'm charmed enough by it by this point that I definitely want to keep playing it.
The one other thing I was going to ask about, maybe if I progress the story more, this will be made more clear. I'm having a little bit of a hard time figuring out which faction is which and who hates me and who doesn't, and why I should know who they are. You know what I mean? Like, when they turn you loose, there's guys that are mainly yellow, and then there are guys with more reddish colors. And like, there's been cases where there were guys who look like enemies who I can tag as enemies. They have health bars, but I can just run right up and stand in between them while they're having a conversation, and they just kind of look at me. And there's like some castles near, but there's like Hatano Castle is close by where you spawn, and like, I don't have a good sense of like, obviously a lot of them are Nobunaga goons, but I don't think they all are, and some of them seem to hate me more than others. Like, some of them only get mad if I try to cross the threshold into the castle, but there's a lot of castles around, and they also don't come out and say like, hey, this is a bad castle, you should go ransack it and kill everybody and take the stuff.
They're mostly bad castles.
Yeah, I assume they were, but there's just kind of like,
well, some of the castles have like zones you can still walk into and not like spark everyone off.
Okay, I see. And like, when you hover over the castles on the map, it straight up shows you like the loot rewards you get for clearing this place. Like,
how
they're
many
clearly
dudes
like,
you have to kill, right?
They're clearly dungeons and everything. It's just they don't give a lot of narrative justification for who the factions are and why you should be killing them.
Yeah,
beyond the Nobunaga invasion.
I think where we are in the story, it's distinctly possible that will change as things with Nobunaga change potentially. But I think the way they are sort of breaking that stuff out in the early part of the game is that the Nobunaga soldiers will not fuck with you unless you do something untoward in front of them. The Ronin, who are just wandering gangs of samurai that are masterless samurai, and bandits, they will fuck with you if you even get too close to their orbit.
And sometimes what happens is the Oda's troops will be fighting bandits or Ronin, and if you get in the middle of that, they'll both turn on you.
Yeah, they'll just assume you're with them and fight you,
or you hit one accidentally or something. Yeah,
sure.
But they do a bit of it might be hard to catch on to, but if you slowly approach the gates of a castle, you will get warned to go back, and if you look at the guys, they'll be like comply or refuse.
Yeah, I guess my disconnect is like like I said, the castles are all presented as dungeons that you should want to go kill everybody in and take their stuff.
Oh yeah, just go in there and murder. That's what like loot is.
Right, but narratively, I've kept stopping and going like, am I actually like good here if I do that? Do I have a narrative reason to hate these people? Like, aren't I kind of like crossing into villain territory if I go kill everybody here?
I don't think the game cares if you cross over into villain territory, honestly.
I have played,
but she is not written that way at all.
No, but I have had to map a little bit of like, okay, I'm projecting my ninja shinobi fantasy on here where they are mercenary and they need resources, and they are factionless, right? They're there because even when you're in those castles, like a twinge of guilt sometimes, but not when I'm on the run. There are just workers there who will spot you and go send the alarm off, and they're all dead now. So sorry, you were working for the bad guys.
I guess that's what it is. It's like a little bit of light role playing, you know. Like she doesn't seem like she has a reason to hate these people and go kill them all, but I kind of want to because I want that suit of armor.
Yeah, we're in like a more fleshed out game or a different version of this. They would present it as like this guy's a horrible mayor, or like the people are oppressed here. Yes. But to be fair, if you take your maybe what used to be modern values and say like, wow, they have really nice castles while everybody else is eating dirt here. Let's go down with the aristocracy of the feudal lords here.
I think there's maybe some dynamics in there we don't fully understand as far as like what that whole thing is. But yeah,
what I understand is get the good loot. Kill the big guys in the armor. There's always going to be other big guys. Seasons change everything.
True.
They keep coming back.
No dai shows, no daimyos, only men.
Yeah. And maybe a Yasuke at some point. We'll see. Maybe by the time we check in next week. I was playing this morning being like, all right, look, before we do this podcast, I'm going to push this thing forward. Maybe I'm just been taking too long, roaming the countryside, getting the question marks. I've done the 2 assassinations. I've done this other thing where I've recruited. I've unlocked the bigger story here. Surely I'm a step away from this. Nope.
Look, I think when they get around to it, my understanding is they do not skimp on the Yasuke stuff. Once they get there, they are just taking their sweet time getting there.
Which is fine. I like playing that way. It's
yeah. I mean, again, she's a damn ninja. That's fun.
Damn ninja. And I really want to get some more of those abilities because they seem pretty fun. And I want to. I didn't look in the options, but some Assassin's Creed games, modern ones, have had the just assassinate toggle, you know, like where it doesn't matter what their health is, as long as you hit them with the hidden blade, they die. Have you guys seen that in any of the options in there?
No, there's a bunch of difficulty customization, but I haven't looked at it.
Okay. Yeah, it's I'm having fun with it. I think it's again not perfect, but a lot of fun. I haven't burnt out on it yet. About again like 15 to 20ish hours in. Still want to run around and find out and Ubisoft my way across that map. It's still towers. It's still question marks.
One of those.
Yep. Yeah, that hasn't changed. All right, we're going to take a break here, a quick break, and we'll be back. We got a couple more things. Brad, you're at GDC. We'll talk about what you got up to there and some other stuff. So stick around. Okay, we are back, and there's other video games out there.
There are.
I have put Avowed on pause for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I like that game a lot.
Yes, I want to finish that game, but
look, a few big games came out all around the same time here.
They really did. Like that, like Avowed, then Monster Hunter, then Assassin's Creed, all like boom, boom, boom.
At some point, I will touch Monster Hunter.
I still got Pirate Yakuza.
You're probably fine to chill a little bit. I think there's like a big title update coming next month. I want to say it is that's going to add stuff and clean stuff up and etc.
Take a look.
Yeah.
But Brad, you have another game here that you got into that has just come out.
Yes. This is the game that I mentioned last week that I couldn't talk about that I had just been playing as part of a review session that I really wanted to play more of. It is 33 Immortals.
33 Immortals.
Yes, which I'm just going to do the reductive shorthand thing here.
Give it to me.
It's like an MMO Hades.
Okay.
That's what
the footage kind of looked like.
It's basically the fastest pitch I can make for it. Also, it's from the developer Spiritfarer.
Right, that's them. Okay.
Which I think is a crazy transition. I never played Spiritfarer, but everything I heard about it made it sound like
not this.
Very different from this.
One hell of a game.
Again, I don't mean to be reductive, but the comparisons to Hades are so numerous that it is impossible to not describe it that way. It is a top-down 2D animated action game with like very tight, dodgy combat, you know, with multiple weapons to choose from. It's also rooted in antiquity. Instead of Greek mythology, here it is the Divine Comedy.
Okay.
So when you go back to your little hub between runs to do upgrades, you've straight up got like Dante and Virgil and Beatrice hanging out as your like upgrade vendor type people.
Okay.
So like a lot of commonalities there. Like even when you talk to the NPCs, you get the nice big like full screen 2D character portrait. Like it feels, I know that's not a criticism. Like it just, it feels very reminiscent of that stuff. Like the big thing though is that it is run based, but it is the runs are 33 player.
Right.
So is there an in-story thing? Why 33?
That's how many they could get.
The hub is MMO-ish. It matches other players into your hub. I've only played it during the review session, I should say. I have not had a chance to fire it up since it came out like 18 hours ago or whatever. I haven't played it on public servers yet.
Okay.
But in the hub, you see other players roaming around and talking to the quest givers and stuff with you. And you all approach this giant door, which is like probably, kind of presented as like a door to the underworld or whatever. And then like you see a bunch of like wraith-looking figures sort of slowly trudging toward the door. So I would not be shocked if there's something from the literature that is full on like Souls of the Damned making some pilgrimage or something, because that's kind of how it's presented.
We should probably mention that it's out in early access, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's like game preview on Xbox, and it's early access on Epic only. It is only on Epic and Xbox right now.
So I got a lot of questions about how this all works with 30. I know how this works in Hades. How does this work with 33 people?
The general loop, I did 2 runs. The general loop is there's a pretty giant world map. It's not room based like Hades, I should say. It's like one giant world map that it spawns everybody in on, I think in fairly random locations. Like it'll kind of spawn people in groups of like 3 to 5 people or something. And I think you can only take 3 in. I think you can group up with 2 friends and be a party, quote unquote.
Interesting. Okay.
And then you'll all get matched into the same session, and I assume get spawned in the same place. But beyond that, there's no voice chat built in. It's all like emote based.
Mm-hmm.
So I randomly was just reading some discussion of this game this morning since it's come out, and I saw somebody compare that part to Journey in the way that you have to kind of like emote to people to try to influence what you want them to do, because you can't speak to them verbally, which is kind of funny. The loop is basically you roam around this giant map, upgrading your shit, like fighting. There's lots of little like events around the world, like little mini bosses and stuff, like clusters of tough enemies, like enemies all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
You're constantly gathering like currency from those as you kill them.
Is it shared or is it individual drops per your player?
It's all individual for everybody. Like even like treasure chests that you find, awesome. You'll see somebody run up to a treasure chest and just stand there for 5 seconds and then run away because they were opening it in their game, but they're not opening it in your game.
I feel like maybe I need to just even stop asking that question. It feels like most developers on modern games do that and don't do shared loot. Maybe that's just a healthier way to have your multiplayer game go.
It seems to be getting there. To be clear, there are not new weapons to find. There are 4 weapons currently. The game seems ripe for more weapon variety. I only played one of the 4 weapons, but like looking at what they are, I tried one of the others actually, but looking at what the 4 weapons are, it very much feels like, I hope they add another 2 to 4 weapons during the course of early access, because this probably will need the variety to hold up in the long term. It's daggers, like giant kind of greatsword, bow and arrow, and like wizard staff, basically.
Okay.
Are your 4 options. So you're upgrading those weapons. Like you pick a weapon going into a run, and then you're just buffing that weapon. It's not like you're finding better daggers or other types of swords or something like that.
Do you bring that out of the run?
No, there's a whole meta progression as you would expect. I didn't see a ton of that because I only got to do 2 full runs in the time that we had in the review session, but there's tons of stuff you're unlocking back in the hub.
Okay.
In terms of like new weapon abilities and like higher tiers of all kinds of stuff. I didn't get a ton of time to look at that stuff.
Like permanent buffs?
But, yeah, the permanent new abilities and like better, you name it, better health, stuff like that.
What happens? We might be getting to this and I might be jumping the gun. I'm sorry, but it's the question at the top of my mind. You start with 33 people. What happens when somebody dies?
They're out.
That's it.
Sorry. There are, I think, again, I only had 2 runs to really kind of get all the details down. I think you might get like 1 revive per run per player, I think.
Like the other players have to go do something?
Yeah, you have to, it's full on down, but not out. You have to go get them back up. But that may not even be in every case. Like definitely when we got to the boss on the second run, like the boss of the whole run, like I was able to get revived once on that boss, but not twice.
Okay.
So there's like, it has the feel of there being a lot that can happen in a run. And I maybe didn't see everything of like random events triggering in the world and stuff like that. And I think there's some like hidden timers going on as well. Basically, you're in this world, you're all roaming around in little clusters. Sometimes somebody will just like peel off and run the other way and you'll never see them again. But like generally, you really want to like try to find a posse and stick with them. And that's the more I think about it, the more that's where the journey comparison does make sense, because I wasn't talking to any of these people, but I started recognizing their kind of gamer tags by the end of the first run of like, okay, that person knows what they're doing. I'm sticking with them. Like, you kind of want to roll around. And to unlock the late game phase, there are a bunch of little mini dungeons that globally the whole player base has to do. It's not just you. I think they're called torture chambers.
And
they're just little like challenge rooms of like very hard combat with a bunch of mini bosses. I think I don't know if this is always a fixed number, but you had to do 12 of those in my session to unlock the final phase and get to the boss.
Okay.
And then again, that's global. So like there are different clusters of players all over the map kind of doing torture chambers concurrently.
Is there a global tracker? The show,
Just when you pull up your map, there's a counter in the top left that just shows how many chambers have been done and how many to go.
33 chambers.
Yes, you want to do those. So the torture chambers can only hold 6 players at a time.
Oh, so how do they gate you out? The door shuts or something? It just
at the top, over the gate to the dungeon, it just says like 3 of 6, and you know that you can only get 3 more in there.
Okay,
because that's the best way to get upgrades. Because there's also a full on roguelite, drop system of trinkets to get. Like you have 8 slots for kind of like Hades or any other roguelite. And it's like, okay, I got a thing that makes all of my attacks do weak damage, or this thing makes me take 30% less damage, or a lot of the gameplay in this is tied to co-op mechanics. So a lot of those buff drop things, little trinkets, will be like, I'm kind of making up numbers here, but like take 2% less damage for every player within your radius, like with kind of on the screen with you at the same time, or like stuff that scales with number of players.
Yeah,
to really encourage you to play together. And each class, like quote unquote class, which is really just which weapon you're using, has a co-op ability that's on a pretty long cooldown, and that's one of the many things you can upgrade. But when you pop your co-op ability, it straight up drops these like sigils on the floor where everybody has to get in position. Like 2 to 4 people have to like stand on the little symbols at the same time. Yeah. And
that's
like all
cool.
synchronize. And then it'll do either a buff or like a big, like crazy, full screen attack on whatever.
That's neat.
Yeah. It's cool. Like in the middle of a huge fight to have somebody throw their thing down, and then everybody has to like scramble to get in position to activate it, because the game's pretty hard.
Do they, I was looking at some of the screenshots. I didn't see it in any of the videos I watched, but actually, wait, this one maybe has it. Are there bounding rings or like a circle or something that closes to funnel people?
Yeah, like that's one of the things that I didn't get a great sense of, but definitely toward the end of the first run, I got really screwed. We had like 3 or 4 people left at the end of the first run, because this was a review session. Nobody had played the game before, except maybe there might have been some developers in there. So we had like 3 people at the end of this run, which I have now come to find is fucking nowhere near enough to beat the boss. Like apparently if you don't get into the boss with like half of the total number of players, you're probably not going to beat the boss.
Okay.
Is my understanding now. But anyway, we popped out of the 12th torture chamber, which kind of started the end game phase. The whole fucking map started catching on fire, like battle royale style.
All right. Yeah.
Where I actually had full health and a great loadout, but because I didn't know what was coming, I got caught outside this quote unquote circle that's funneling you to the middle of the map to kind of go start the end game boss phase.
Yeah.
I had basically no health left by the time I got to the middle and got out of that fire because I got caught out. So there's definitely stuff like that to be aware of. But again, I didn't, because there's other instances where other types of like fire will start raining from the sky randomly that you have to really watch out for. And I don't know what triggers some of that stuff, but the one you're talking about, I think, was the like end
let's
game,
move. Yeah.
The end game, like, hey, like it's time to funnel everybody to the middle and
that
go.
Makes sense to me, right?
Yeah, because you get to the middle of the map and have to do the one final event that is like they spawn just a shitload of bosses on top of you at one time. And that's hard. And then you get ported to the actual boss. And I think there are 3 bosses in the current early access release. I only saw the first one, which is Lucifer.
Well, that's the first boss, boy, brother, you got problems.
Yeah, and like the boss is huge. The boss is like bigger than the whole screen, and it's like crazy giant fight with like 10 health bars. So like it's like a 10 segment health. You whittle 1 health bar down, and you still have 9 to go.
I think that's a really interesting way to do it with the funneling people in, maybe without even teleporting them, because otherwise, if you had like, you could just be hanging out in one of those antechambers, right, and just be like, everybody else is fighting the boss.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get all the rewards. And but everybody, you would be dead, right? If you stayed outside that circle.
Yeah. Yes.
So you have to chip in. I assume the ring around the boss is such that everybody's kind of fighting the boss, right? You can't just hide in the corner.
Well, so you get ported to another screen if you're talking about the actual boss, the Lucifer tier boss. That's a whole
its own porting.
Everybody gets like warped to a boss stage for that,
no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like the loop is really satisfying because everything's a little bit clunky when you get in there. It's like your weapons feel just maybe a tad too weak. Like the dodge cooldown is just maybe a little longer than you would like, that kind of thing. Because the loop of each run is you're rapidly improving those things. Okay. So like, by the end of the run, like your dodge might have like a full like second shorter cooldown and do like an explosion damage every time you dash.
Sure.
Like just you amass a bunch of power stuff as you go so that by the time you're at the end of the run, you feel kind of awesome fighting stuff.
Okay. So the other thing I was thinking of when we had this game on here, aside from what happens when you die, 33 is kind of a lot for a session.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, they're designing for it, so I feel like
I don't mean mechanics wise. I mean number of players in it, on the game at a time. Do you think this is one of those games that get in there and play early to have the most chance of getting full sessions all the time?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if there's any provision for bots or anything like that. I didn't get the sense that there is, but maybe there is. I don't know. But yes, like this does feel like a bit of a bold move.
It's bold
to be like, hey, you're going to need 33 player games to get much of anything out of this game at all times. And we hope that this game remains popular through its early access phase and into the future.
Yeah, because if you're maybe they do scale for 15 people, but would it even launch with fewer than 33?
I don't know how that would work. Because the second run, it seemed like I joined a session in progress, maybe, but not very in progress. Like they had maybe started a minute or two before I got there.
Right, because if there are timers in a certain number of chambers, they'd have to really do some tweaking.
Yeah, I need to play more of it to try to get a sense of some of those parameters. But yeah, I mean, I think that probably is a concern over time.
Well, that seems, early access, you said, on Epic Games, not on Game Pass, right?
It is on Game Pass. Actually,
it is on Game Pass.
It was a day one, again, game preview on Xbox, not finished, but it is day one on Game Pass.
Cool. That'll help get players in there, despite whatever not getting into the financials of being on Game Pass. But that'll certainly put players in seats. Crossplay, do you know?
I believe it does have crossplay.
That'll help for sure.
Yeah, it absolutely should. I hope it stays popular. This is kind of a me thing. I really wish it was done. Like we go through a lot of games around here. It's like tough to devote a lot of time to an early access game when you kind of would rather play the final form of it. So I might hold off. I mean, I'm going to play some of it, but I might not get deep into it because like the meta progression was really after the end of the like 2.5 hours of the review session. I was like, oh man, because they were wiping progress. I was like, man, I just got all this currency. I'm just now unlocking all of the repeatable quests in the hub to start really getting the upgrades. And now I have to, and it's got the typical roguelike thing of like the pool of items you can find in a run gets bigger rapidly as you unlock stuff in the hub. So like the meta progression part of it seems really addicting. But I'm not sure how much I'll play in early access before it's like done.
Just trying to see here. Do you know offhand what their roadmap is or their plan? Like how long I'm trying to look on Epic and see if they have it.
I'm not sure if they've said.
Okay. They might not have said. I'm not seeing anything here yet. But that's 33 Immortals on the Epic Game Store and Xbox in preview program. That's Xbox's thing, right?
Game preview,
and then whatever early access is on Epic. $20, I believe.
Yes, I believe that's right. They've got a page up that is called a roadmap, but I don't. Oh, here we go. Okay. There's multiple worlds, I should say, as well. I didn't see any of that stuff, but I believe there are actually worlds that require fewer players.
Oh.
But you can't just go into them. You have to like unlock keys to buy your way into them.
Okay.
So I think you're going to have to play the 33 player mode to get keys to go on to the harder, lower player count maps.
Interesting. Like so you have to be pretty good.
Yeah, because I see on their roadmap in the fall 2025 update, they're adding New World Paradiso.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, the only thing I saw was 1.0 in 2026, which is we'll see. Right?
Yeah, I hope it's got staying power because I think this game is extremely cool.
Yeah, Yeah, I want to check it out, especially if it's on Game Pass where I can dip in, give it a try, and maybe not fully commit yet, you know?
Yeah.
Very cool. 33 Immortals, early access now. Will probably be in early access for a little bit there. So check it out. Now, shifting gears a little bit more to stuff you were able to get some time with at GDC.
Yes.
Where do you want to start?
I played Clair Obscur. Speaking of games with 33 in the title.
The other 33 game.
I got to put my hands on Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
We are in the season for the 33.
Is
the
FRPG an auspicious number?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe. I don't know. That's the FRPG, the French turn-based RPG.
FRPG.
That is actually pretty close. I think, isn't that game out next month? Or did they change that?
Let's see. So far, April 24th.
Yeah, that game's like a month, 5 weeks away or something. That game is feels very much like a latter day, like high production value Final Fantasy from what I saw of it, which is to say it's hard to get a whole lot out of a game like that in a preview event environment.
Right.
Sure.
The demo they had was mostly combat focused, so that's mostly what I saw. There was a little bit of story in there. Combat seems cool. It's like it's kind of, I feel like it's kind of what you expect from modern turn-based RPG combat at this point, where it's very timing focused. Like when you attack, you want to time button presses to get extra damage. When they attack, you can either dodge or parry, and those have different timing windows, but give different benefits if you nail them or nail them perfectly.
Oh, like a Super Mario RPG.
Yeah, yes, and stuff like that. There's a free aim thing. It's action point based. You earn action points by doing basic attacks and then cash them in, to do better attacks. There's a free aim mode, which is one of the things you can spend action points on, where you straight up just have a rifle that you can aim with the right stick at the enemy
without locking.
Yeah, and they have weak points. You can basically shoot out weak points on the enemies.
Oh, okay.
To take off a bunch of health if you've got extra action points.
The videos of this make it look fast in the combat, and be a little Persona-esque.
I absolutely was going to come in here and say, without having played modern Persona games, this is exactly what I imagine their combat is like in terms of the way it's presented. Because the menus are pretty stylish and like animate and pop onto the screen. Like it's not a little text box. It's like some like nice snazzy art around all the combat options. Like the camera swoops back and forth based on who's attacking.
A lot of swooping.
Like, there's a style to the combat for sure. The combat seemed cool-ish. Like I'm not 100% sold on it yet, but it seems like the fundamentals are probably pretty good.
But this is an RPG.
Definitely. It is very much like I said, in that vein of recent turn-based console RPGs.
Party
this
RPG.
Nature.
This is you've got a few people here.
Yeah, I only had two characters here. The main character, Gustav, is like kind of your basic sword guy.
Okay.
Luna, I think, was the other character. She's like a magic user that generates stains.
Gross.
Elemental stains.
Me too.
Yeah. I don't know.
I've been known.
Quite. Like you use one ability and you generate a fire or like a flame stain, and then you can cash the flame stain in to cast an ice thing. She's like a kind of resource-based magic user is what I mean.
Okay.
So it seems like every character probably will have unique mechanics on them. And then there's the whole there's the whole paintress thing, which I didn't see any of really in this demo because it was mostly all combat and exploration.
Who's she? What's she doing? Why do you got to kill her?
She's the lady that paints the number.
Why would you do that? Why would she be painting numbers?
Because whatever number she paints, like everybody of that age dies. En masse.
Oh, well, look, we all need a system.
I don't want that.
Remember that, like that's the pitch for the game, is like every year she paints a number and whoever is of the age of the number she paints just like fades into oblivion.
I've heard worse systems, it's
we're working toward this.
I was reading the description here, and does this mean anything to you? Because it says, explore a world of wonders inspired by Belle Epoque France.
I think that's isn't that the late 19th century in
I don't
France?
know what's the beautiful epoch.
Yeah, I believe that is. I believe that is the late 19th century, just prior to the World Wars kind of thing.
Is that
in France? I think.
Okay.
Yes. Began after the end of the Franco-Prussian War in 1871.
Mm-hmm.
Continued until the outbreak of World War I. Yeah, so it's like kind kind of a period of like enlightened cultural development and peace that directly preceded some real bad shit.
Right.
So that's pre-Leighton. That's pre.
Yes. I guess so. I'm not sure actually.
I don't know.
Like,
I just always
that's
remember
how
Ryan
I
Davis.
measure time is
like,
pre and post Leighton.
Ryan Davis always saying Leighton takes place in Japanese France.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What time period maybe is a little malleable there, but like this definitely has the look of like what I would say is Victorian, except that's English, not French.
Right.
Yeah, but it's that similar era.
Is Leighton actually even French? Is that not English?
No, he's a video game character.
What? Stop it! Now you're just being silly.
Wait, is he British? I think he's British, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, isn't he?
I think he hangs out in France sometimes, though, doesn't he?
I think aren't the games somewhat set in France? I can't remember.
Some of them are, at least.
I'm pretty sure Curious Village is in France.
Like I said, I always just think about Ryan Davis saying Japanese France, which
Japanese, absolutely. And now I need to know what the name of the village is in Professor Layton, the first one at least.
I don't know.
What is the Curious Village?
I don't know. It's,
Saint Mystère.
Okay.
So yes, that sounds extremely San Mist. I don't
think that's a real place.
No.
Okay. This is Clair Obscur Expedition 33 Immortals.
Yeah, and I think isn't Clair Obscur, assuming we're even saying that right?
I think we are.
Also,
I don't know we are, but I think we are.
Well, two things here. First of all, which title is it? Because on Steam it's listed as Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
Yeah.
On the official site, it's the reverse. On the official site,
really?
It says the title of the page is Expedition 33: Clair Obscur.
It's like the month day thing in Europe. It's just
of
reverse.
course.
Okay.
Yes, of course. That must be it. But also, isn't Clair Obscur, assuming I'm saying that right, isn't that an art or architectural style? I think.
Look, you got me, man.
I think that is like an existing like concept in art of some fashion.
I always studied the Italian stuff.
I know what a camera obscura is.
Like this is the existence of this game has now made it impossible to Google about the art movement.
Is it clear and not clear at the same time? What
I
is
don't
it?
know.
Is Clair Obscur some kind of bigger universe and Expedition 33 is a thing? Because
I don't think so.
In their print materials, that Expedition 33 is extremely large, with the other stuff being extremely small.
I don't think that's the case. I think this is the first thing.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, here it is. It is an art technique.
What is it? What do you do?
It's chiaroscuro.
Oh, it's just
okay. I know what that is. Yeah,
French copycats.
Apparently.
Okay. Whatever.
Yeah, it's just a French term for that.
Okay.
I don't know. I would maybe interpret the formatting of the title to mean like, hey, what if this game's very successful and then we make an Expedition 34?
There you go.
Having already established a subtitle on our universe would be very handy at that point. I don't know.
Who knows? We'll find out. Well, maybe we'll find out very soon because that game is out in a month. That
True.
is Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
Yeah, I hope it's good.
Always.
Cool.
Every game we hope.
Seems like it could be cool.
Another game here, Brad, that was shown somewhere. I think it was at the Annapurna thing, their online event. To a T.
To a T.
Which, boy, this is one of those.
To a Takahashi.
Yeah, it's
it's a very Takahashi-esque game.
Hawk Tua, whatever.
No, we're not. No, I don't even want to put him in the same sentence as that.
Is that where you were going with that?
No.
No, never.
Okay.
Never.
I hear Tua and my brain just short circuits now.
Yeah, it's unfortunately the world we live in now.
Let's not try to put that one together. Yeah, this is the new Keita Takahashi game. I guess the first full big game he's done since Wadham.
Yeah, it's his first thing since he is no longer part of the Phenomena company.
Yeah, I guess isn't Uvula the name of his new studio?
Yeah.
I mean, he did do that Playdate game for the launch of the Playdate. Remember, he did that little wasn't the time travel game on the Playdate, I think?
I think you're right.
I think that's right, but this is the first like console game he's done since Wadham, which has been a while. It's a game about a small child who is trying to go through life trapped in a T-pose.
Yep. That seems cool or interesting or a good concept.
I started from the beginning and the intro is fairly long, so it seems like the bulk of the game is you kind of exploring sort of an open world town and going about your life and doing goofy stuff in a more freeform way, but the beginning of the game is very regimented, like, hey, you're at home, you need to get ready for school while you can't move your arms and they're extended out to your side.
Right.
So it seems like I was expecting something maybe a little more like goofy physics based. And it's a little more adventure game of like, okay, it's time to brush your teeth. Like we're mapping controls for like mouth and neck tilt. I guess it is a little physicsy.
Yeah.
And arms to the different like shoulder buttons and sticks and stuff. So you have to like kind of, if you can imagine how you might like wash your face and brush your teeth while you can't move your arms from their rigid positions to your sides. Like
with a very long toothbrush.
Yes. You quite literally like eat your morning cereal with like a giant like ladle.
Interesting.
Or soup spoon kind of thing.
Okay.
But I got out, I had a little time to run around once you get out of that intro out into the world, and like it just seems like kind of madcap and whimsical. You know, there was like a big buff bodybuilding bird. Dude.
Tell me more.
Like a raven or something hanging out on a bench that you try to talk to at one point, listening to headphones, and he like talks to you in bird talk.
Oh.
And your character's just like, I'm sorry, I can't understand you. You just run away, and like it seems like a lot of goofy, like you get served a birthday sandwich by a very tall giraffe.
Fantastic.
At a sandwich shop. You have a talking dog that follows you around. I named him Dog.
Love it.
Which is fun to address your dog as Dog.
Mm-hmm.
I found there's like a character creator, so you sort of make and name your character. It opens with like it's a theme song that's not quite sitcom-esque, but it's almost like a sitcom intro with lyrics that are just very explicitly about the fact that you're stuck in a T-pose. And it's like, I want to wash my face. I want to brush my teeth, but I can't.
Aww.
It's like, it's very goofy and whimsical and pretty charming. I don't know how the gameplay will hold up, but it seems very, like I could see a certain type of person who likes Katamari and games of that nature probably gravitating quite strongly to this.
So the kid is stuck in this T-pose, not doing it by choice?
Okay.
No, in fact, it seems like it touches on a little bit like, maybe the kid doesn't want to go to school because the other kids don't treat you very kindly when you have an abnormality like this.
Right. I mean, look, at this point, Keita Takahashi could make spreadsheet software, and I would probably play it at this point. You know,
Sure.
like there really isn't much that guy could do that would not interest me, so I'm on board regardless, but that sounds like a great concept.
Yeah, it seems like it's probably going to be pretty neat. I just didn't see a ton of the later game, like deeper stuff.
One of the key features says a very cute dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm in.
Confirm. Yeah,
true.
That is out May 28th.
Oh,
this
not
year.
too far off either.
No, yeah, or at least that's the scheduled date. So yeah, a couple months, 2 months there. That is 2AT. Toet. Oh, now I see how you got there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I was a little confused.
I refuse to go there with you, but I see how you got there.
I see you got there. 2AT. Is that it for the GDC? GDC?
For now, yeah. There's got some embargoed stuff we can talk about next week.
So did they have did you see stuff on in a hotel suite or something?
Yeah,
or
this is a private event at like a venue,
okay.
like a restaurant kind of situation. Like this was I walked by Moscone, but did not.
Gotcha.
Like kind of saw lots of people with show badges, but this was off show. Of course,
Okay.
I mean, everything is for press at GDC. Like the GDC is just developers. They're not doing game
I was just
demos
going to
in there,
say,
of course.
I haven't been to GDC in a long time, but they don't have like a show floor, right? Where like
there is a floor.
They always did, unless that's changed. I assume they still do. Yeah, remember that was where we would go interview the Speed Tree folks, for example.
Right. That's where
Wait,
they
was
live.
that GDC?
Yes,
that was GDC.
That was GDC.
Oh, okay. No, I don't remember. I thought GDC was mostly the panels and stuff.
It's a lot of talks. But
the floor is mostly for recruiting and middleware development.
Middleware,
yes, it's stuff like that on the floor.
Okay.
It's been years and years since I went, but that's what it was for sure.
Okay. No, but less than like we're gonna have like a meeting here on the floor for a game.
No,
Okay.
not definitely not to show stuff off.
Yeah, I always hoped that GDC could be a place where a developer could go and not have to work.
Be away from us.
A little bit.
Yeah, I distinctly remember when preview events starting up at GDC in the early kind of mid 2000s in earnest, and I always felt a little weird about it.
Like crashing a party.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like developers are here to learn and network and like do their thing. Not take
prepare
time
a
out
build.
of, right, not crunch on a demo to show to press and take time out of their show schedule for that. But
yeah. Well, I hope everybody who's at GDC is having a good time. And,
yeah, I think so.
I hope everybody who can afford to go to GDC and who's available to go to GDC is having a good networking experience.
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
The industry could use some good networking. And that show, it's not open to, you have to buy tickets, right?
Yes, it is quite expensive to buy a pass if you don't get one some other way.
Right.
Which has always been its own ball of wax. And now on top of that, you make international travel to the United States a little, I mean, gently describing it as a little more complicated. Yeah. Let's be real, it's fucked up.
I am curious. I don't know if they make attendance numbers public for GDC, but I'm curious how substantially they are down, because I anecdotally seen a lot of people on my social media feed talking about opting not to go this year.
I've seen a ton of people from Europe and Canada basically just say, I am pulling out because I do not think it is viable for me to travel to the US right now.
I went to go buy some. This is tangentially related, but I went to go buy something, and I've been trying to buy fewer things from big stores. I'm trying to buy more from the individual retailer, something like that. And I went to go buy this thing from this person who makes them, and it basically said, "I ain't shipping to the US. Fuck that shit." I was like,
okay,
honestly, fair.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, okay, fair.
What am I supposed to argue? Like, okay, yeah.
It was a little bit more of like, hey, with no idea what's going on with tariffs, I can't actually do this because I don't know what to charge, and I don't know what you're going to get charged. But it was also a thing of just like, also, I ain't supporting that shit. Like, I was like, fair. Like, yeah. I'll wait on this thing. I'll put a pin in it. It was like a very bespoke thing that I was looking for. But yeah, man, yeah. I don't know what the numbers are going to be like for GDC. Also, like we just said, it's expensive to go, and if a company's not footing the bill, that can be hard to go on your own.
It was already expensive and problematic to go to GDC before, let's just say, the country became irrevocably fucked.
I don't know if somebody knows, if works at GDC or something and knows about a way, maybe for next year, it's almost too late now, if there are ways for people who are in the industry, maybe that are looking for employment, can get like a pass to go to some of those things. Be great to know about it and promote it before GDC. If there's a sponsorship program for people who are out of a job or looking, because what I always hear about GDC, it's a great place to make contacts.
Yeah.
Or had them.
Yes. Also, irrespective of politics, I mean, I was not there that much. I talked to a decent number of people, but not a ton. Like, did not get a strong feeling of optimism about just the state of the business either. I mean, it's the same stuff as it's always been. It's the same, it's the same 6 games are making all the money.
Yeah.
There's no funding to go around. Like, I did not hear a ton of change there. It doesn't seem like that stuff has abated much at all yet.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
All right. I assume you just spent the rest of your time in crypto panels and AI panels.
How are the NFTs doing?
Yeah, NFTs, right? Yeah.
Don't hear about that so much anymore.
No?
Weird.
Thank goodness for small blessings, huh? All right. How about we take a break here? We come back and we talk about the news out there. Not too much news actually popping out of GDC, for better or worse. But there's some news, and we're going to cover it right after this. And we are back. And inside my kitchen, when we took a little break there, I went to go use the restroom. Oh man, there's like a brisket cooking in like the whole house. I don't know. It's like really, it's like in my nostrils now. It's been going for a couple of hours. That's
okay. Don't tell my doctor I just said that, because I'm on a low cholesterol diet now.
Okay, well, we'll keep this between us.
Don't tell her I thought of brisket.
Okay, great. Well, things that are not on a low calorie, low cholesterol, low budget diet may include the Switch 2.
Yeah, you
Switch
got there.
2. Switch 2 speculation. Let's fire it back up.
Hell yeah. It's been a week.
You can tell it's a strong news week when we're starting with, hey, analysts, what do you think about this?
Look, we have like 2 more weeks of wild speculation before we're supposed to know what's actually going on.
Actually, so yeah, that's a good point. I meant to bring up in here, as of this recording, we are exactly 2 weeks out from that big Switch 2 stream.
April 2nd.
I actually didn't consider whether they would give the price at that stream. I was kind of just like, I don't know what I'm expecting, but I guess what I will say, I will be happy if we just see games. Like, that's all. I guess that is what I'm expecting. I like games, maybe a date, maybe a price, but probably just games. Like maybe they announce date and price later, but maybe we do know everything in 2 weeks. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, right now we can speculate.
Yeah, at any rate, Bloomberg has talked to quite a few analysts actually about what their thoughts are on where pricing is going. And granted, this is like a very fluid topic with tariffs going into effect and then quintupling and then being suspended day by day right now. So like
or having exemptions in them.
Right. Like this, where the Switch 2 price lands is even more uncertain than it would be in a normal time. The consensus, everybody is basically saying at least 400. Like that was extremely easy to predict. The thing I did not expect is that some analysts are seeing it as possibly being 500 out of the gate, particularly with the strife going on right now, but also just looking at the supply chain and like what they are interpreting the components to cost in this thing. That there is a Toyo Securities analyst, Hideki Yasuda, said, quote, wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo goes ahead with $499. Which, like, that's
Switch
rough.
launched at $399?
$299.
$299, man.
Yes.
All
It
right.
was $300. Granted, that was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
A lot has changed since then. In fact,
right. In $2025, that's $8,000.
Granted, we have been in pretty atypical inflation situation, I think. But according to this Yahoo Finance story, $299 in 2017 is $388 today. So it's actually
okay.
400 is pretty close to parity with, again, the pretty runaway inflation. But 500,
it's rough.
That feels like it's pushing it in Switch territory. Like it was, frankly, it was pushing it for the PS5 and Series X. But those are much more powerful consoles.
Yeah.
And it has not been that long since those came out, and those prices did not land well there.
How much is a Mario worth to you, huh?
I don't know. And it's not like income disparity and economic conditions have changed much in the last 4 years either. So like, also I guess I should throw in let me find it. I believe I'm now not seeing the figures. I think they say they're predicting something like 6 to 8 million units on shelves for launch.
Expecting to launch in June with first day inventory of 6 to 8 million units.
Right. So like even at 500, I mean, let's be clear, like they're going to sell as many as they have to sell at launch for even that price. But I feel like long term, that is maybe getting a little dodgy for a lot of the people who are looking to buy a Switch-like device.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, not to put too much of an emphasis on this, but like one of the big selling points of the Switch was it was the more affordable option of like what everything Sony and Microsoft has done over the last near decade. And, that's an easy inroad, especially when you have, a Mario and a Zelda that you can just kind of put in front of anybody. I feel like I understand the inflation argument. I understand there are probably factors at play here that are not just like straight up corporate greed, but that is a tougher sell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
especially for a portable device that is largely ending up in the hands of children who are going to abuse the hell out of it. Something 300. Something gets broken, you have to replace it is one thing. Like if your new Switch, somebody sits on the Switch 2 a week after you get it at $500, that stings a lot more.
Or it gets left in a place, or
yes, it's much easier to damage or misplace than a TV console.
I think they have a lot of work to do if they're going to be much above $400, and also messaging not just to us but to the people, because like you said, I don't know if this is actually true, but we're just going off, unless you guys have some analyst data to say that a lot of these are bought for other people, right? But let's assume some of that is true, because I know a lot of kids that have a Switch as well, right? Versus another console. A lot of work needs to be done to convince a parent and the children, to give them the ammunition to make the argument that this is worth, by calling it the Switch 2, this is a $500 upgrade to my Switch, right? That this plays different. Show me the games. Let the kids see the games, get their Nintendo power in their hands so they can show their parents to say, this is why, because I live this. News. We all live this. We went through the Nintendo to Super Nintendo. I'm sure parents were like, you already have a Nintendo.
Oh, dude. Have you seen the local news reports?
No.
Oh, you can find them all over YouTube. Like people have saved videotaped local news reports from that period of time. Parents were livid.
Yes.
What do you mean you can't play your old Nintendo games on this new thing? Get out of here.
So my parents, you already have a Nintendo. Why do we need another one? This is a Super Nintendo. What's different about it? And my parents would make fun of me to this day, be like, better graphics. So probably that still happens today, especially if you're in the unfortunate situation where you just got a Switch this year or last year to be like, we just bought a Switch. What are you telling me I need to buy a Switch to? $500. Anyway, harder sell. We are, like we just mentioned, 2 weeks away, right? April 2nd from this announcement. Very little known yet about the Switch Switch 2, because right now, if I were not in this industry, if somebody were sending me something, I'd be like, it really just looks like a Switch. I don't know what's different about it. And I'd be like, well, it's going to have a different Mario Kart on it, right? And like
it's got a 2.
It's got a 2 right in there. So I'm excited to see what they show in 2 weeks to really blow the doors off of this. If it comes in at $400, I think it's a much easier sell.
Yes, for sure. That frankly feels like a win at this point.
Yeah. If it comes in at $500, you better be, and I think it's alluded to in this article, but we don't know the time frame. You better be surrounded by a new Mario game, a Metroid Prime 4, and a Mario Kart to say.
And I think just a good reason for someone to spend that much money. That
and
isn't
a clear
just
one.
Games.
Yeah. It needs to be more than Mario Kart, I'll tell you that. Like, I have nothing against Mario Kart and the people who like it, but it absolutely does not move the needle for me in any respect. And
so many people own it on the Switch.
Listen, Brad, your anti-Mario Kart bigotry has been apparent for some time.
Look, I played the first one and it's still the best.
Still, hey, look, I can't argue with that.
I mean, look, I fine. I recognize that I'm an outlier here because I started to say, if you're just launching with a new Mario Kart, that's not enough. It is absolutely enough.
It will
for
do
the market.
Fine.
It's for the market. It's just not enough for me.
I don't know, man. Like they're very bullish in this article. These analysts are like, it's going to sell no matter what. You could sell for $1 billion. For me personally, a Mario Kart on a Switch feels like it hits saturation. You know, like a lot of kids I know, my kids' friends, have played Mario Kart on the Switch.
I mean, again, they just put out a giant DLC pack that literally doubled the number of courses in the game like 2 years ago.
Good Mario Kart.
But, you know, let's not forget that the base version of that game came out 11 years ago.
I never forget that. It's still insane to me that it is done as well as it has on the Switch, and I'm still impressed that they continued to support it that many years after the fact.
Yeah, it's just like a new 3D Mario would be way more interesting to me, and that's what I think it's Serkin Toto from, what is his firm called? I can't remember. It might be Kanton. Anyway, he literally uses the words 3D Mario.
Yeah.
So analysts are expecting that as well, and that could be very exciting, I hope.
Yeah, and
I don't know if it's $500 exciting, but we'll see.
We'll see. And yeah, a lot of
I know we're just repeating ourselves week to week now at this point, but I hope the backwards compatibility story is exciting as well. Like, I would love to start Breath of the Wild over for a third time at 4K 60, let's say, or something along those lines.
I still think they're going to charge you.
I mean, I could live with $10. I could live with a $10 upgrade.
Okay.
Like, if they are going to sell a whole new copy of the game, like, fuck that.
Well, that would be a really rough ask, especially for $70. You know, like
I mean, at that point, I do start to think like, I do own the game legitimately, and as much as you try to take down every fork of Ryujinx that gets spun off, I have other options.
Mm-hmm.
There are other ways to see a high resolution.
Games can be played.
Yeah, I could. I mean, I don't know if some people would be more upset about this. I could swallow a $10 upgrade fee on the Zeldas.
It depends what work has been done into it. If it is a like really high res assets that's running at a solid 60 at 4K or coming to my TV at a 4K, looks good, has some bells and whistles, I could see it too. If it's just like they turn the knob up and they're just rendering, trying to render better,
that's not great.
So that's the Switch 2. Look, the fun part about this now is Nintendo knows all this information. That video might even be recorded by now when they do their announcement. Maybe it's somebody covering their mouth with the price in the video, and they're going back and forth because who knows about global economics right now. But I really hope that price and date are in that video, like you mentioned, Brad, earlier. Like, there is a chance it might not be. We still feel like summer, September.
It feels like June is the latest I had seen.
That's in this article, but that's so close.
I mean, if it is that soon, then they kind of have to reveal price and date because like retailers have to start taking pre-orders and stuff. So
yeah, I would assume would have gotten a leak by now at something of pre-order.
It may not be decided, or Nintendo is very good keeping secrets. Obviously, they're not perfect because nobody is these days. But
all right, that's Nintendo Switch 2. We're gonna be look. The speculation mill is shutting down business. The doors are getting closed.
Yeah, I am excited to see those games. Like, there's still nothing more exciting to me than a new video game console. And also, we can stop speculating.
My son's playing through Metroid Prime, that remake right now. He's really enjoying it. We'll be very excited for Metroid Prime 4. All right, next news here you have, Brad, is the Xbox Copilot stuff that came out of their latest podcast. Is that where this?
Yes, I believe that was on the official Xbox podcast that they announced that Copilot for gaming.
Copilot for gaming.
Copilot has been a brand kicking around Microsoft for a long time. I think it started at GitHub.
I have GitHub Copilot.
GitHub Copilot is kind of code generation stuff, and then there was Copilot Plus was the program that launched last year on newer laptops, which has got all the like Windows AI assist stuff built into it, which I don't know has been very successful.
I thought they pulled a lot of that.
They pulled or at least modulated the recall feature, which was the thing that was straight up taking frame grabs of your desktop constantly.
Okay.
For later referral by the model to try to track stuff you had been doing. There was a huge backlash against that. They I can't remember exactly how they pulled back on that, but at any rate, there is now a Copilot feature coming to the Xbox ecosystem.
And what are they touting for some of its features here?
It seems like... there's a line in here. Here it is. This line in this Xbox Wire story really jumps out at me, as if to say at least whoever wrote this piece is like becoming very sensitive to the public feelings about AI.
Mm-hmm.
Copilot gaming will be there for you when you need it, but out of the way if you don't.
Okay.
AI-driven sidekick designed to be your personalized gaming companion, helping you get to your favorite games faster, coaching you to improve your skills, and connecting you better with your friends and communities. So it's like, it seems like it's recommendations and like strategy level stuff, right? Like kind of like, hey, what do I do? I mean, there's a Minecraft screenshot in this story that straight up has little OS level pop-ups on top of the Minecraft that says like, okay, I've got some wood. What do I do with that? And like the AI pops in with an answer, like telling you what to do with wood in Minecraft. So for example,
in the podcast, they show the example of somebody doing that with the wood, right? And then they're like, this part was funny to me. They're like, I can't find my crafting bench. And then the AI is like, it wouldn't be in your inventory. If it's not in your inventory, it's where you left it last. And the person's like, where is it? Like, I can't tell you that. And then the person's like, why can't you tell me that? Because you don't have cheats enabled, so I can't give you a location for it. And then they go in and they turn off cheats, and they're like, all right, I turned off cheats. Now what? And it cuts to something else. Be like, I turned off cheats, and then it's like, where's the coal? And it's like, it's right near you, a little bit further down. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on anymore. There was also the example they show in the podcast with the oh my gosh, it just blew out of my head. With the
team Age of Empires?
No, the team shooter, Activision's Zenyatta. Holy cow!
Overwatch.
Oh, my poor brain.
Oh god, what's happening?
Yeah, and they're like, and the person is like, hey, somebody picked my favorite character. Who should I use? And they're like, well, you've done well with this other character last time. Maybe you should try them. It would actually be a good counter to this character. Why don't you give it a try? It's similar to your playstyle.
Okay, they got to speed this up because there's not a lot of time in that lobby to pick a character.
That is probably the best example I've heard of how this might actually be useful, because granted, if you're deep in the Overwatch scene, you probably understand the meta already, but if you're not, like if I just want to play some Overwatch and I don't keep up with who's good and who fits into which role and stuff, like that's actually not the worst. Something that reduces a lot of complexity that you don't have time or inclination to peel apart yourself is not the worst thing, provided you can trust the answer it's giving you.
So there's another
side.
There was and then maybe more along those lines. There's another example in there that I was like, oh, okay, look, I'm very skeptical of this stuff, but like I've been in that situation. The person dies and they're like, what happened? And they're like, okay, this character used their ability, which drains your shield here, and like you stayed in the battle too long, you should have gotten out. Your teammates were all dead, and it was just like, oh, okay, that's actually kind of interesting to have possibly a trustworthy source tell you what just happened, because I've played Overwatch in those games and I've just gone down and been like, what the hell just happened?
I do have to point out, we solved this problem damn near 30 years ago with the combat log in Quake.
Okay.
So-and-so rode so-and-so's rocket. Like, okay, I know who killed me, and I know they killed me with a rocket launcher. Like, that is not a mystery.
Can you say, how do I not ride that rocket launcher?
Yeah, no.
So yeah, I don't know. Very skeptical. Disclaimer, asterisk. We know there are different types of uses of AI. It's still data collection on a lot of levels. You're still having to analyze, parse, and collect a lot of telemetry and data to do this. How is that being stored? How is that being used? How is that being possibly kept inside of Microsoft, possibly outside of Microsoft?
Yeah, can you opt out of providing data for this thing?
Can you opt out of providing the data for this thing? What if I don't want you to be analyzing everything? You're probably doing that already, but just maybe not spitting it back to me in this form.
Now they're telling you that they have it.
Yeah.
I mean, from the sound of it, it sounds like you can just not engage with this thing at all if you don't want to. Like, I assume you can just turn all this off. Will they continue collecting the data even if you're not using it? Probably. I don't know.
Frankly, some of this stuff earlier we were talking about, there is a UI problem with even trying to find on the Xbox store of trying to find a 4-player co-op game for my kids, right? Mm-hmm. Sorting them, finding ones that are like, look, this says co-op, but this is actually not couch co-op, or this is 2-player couch co-op and then 2 players online, right? Like I need it to have couch co-op, but they all need to be couch co-op. And I would like it if it is, PvE, not PvP or something. Like there's a lot of things that we have problems with sorting and that kind of thing. I don't know if this solves that problem, but it does seem like from their write-up here, that's something they're trying to ease the pain on, which is this meeting your needs of discovering or at least finding stuff in your library. So
yeah, like kind of more refined, like natural language search for a type of game you're looking for seems like a pretty decent application of this sort of thing. Like there's a screenshot in here on the phone of just like almost just Siri-like, basically just saying like, hey, I want to play Age of Empires 4. Can you just go reinstall it for me?
Yeah.
And not having to drill down through a store through multiple pages to find an install button. Like that's, that type of thing is fine.
Yeah. Which it definitely, look, that's like outside of the scope of where, I mean, again, you're still using data, you're still using all this stuff, but it's way less of the, we just made a game out of AI style thing.
Yeah. This is very different from was Muse, I think was the model the generative model that they rolled out. Like
whatever they were doing over there. Yeah.
This is like kind of different in kind from stuff like that.
And I have look, I'm not being, I don't think I'm being too, my head in the sand. Look, I understand they have all this data anyway. So like maybe this is just a better way to regurgitate it back to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what additional tracking they would need to start doing. Like, I don't know if they're like analyzing the actual visuals of your game, like computer vision style.
Yeah. Or where they're getting their strategies. Is it just through other telemetry of being like, look, most players who play 76 get the fuck out of a combat situation.
Yeah, like the dynamic strategy stuff seems like the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Rickety here, or potentially rickety, like how they're generating that, where they're getting it from, what answers they give you. That's higher stakes and seems more prone to failure than just like assisted recommending like, hey, I want a specific kind of football game or whatever. Like that, totally. That kind of search stuff seems way less offensive.
Yeah, there's also stuff that might be neat. Again, it's just more the natural language stuff of like, hey, what's the first Xbox game I got an achievement in, right? Like, and if you could just find that for me without me having to go scroll my whole achievement list.
That would be great, because I am the kind of nerd who likes to sit around scrolling through my 19 years of achievements sometimes, or other people's achievements. Like, frankly, I still occasionally like to compare my stuff to other people I know. And and it takes forever to scroll through hundreds of games from 2005 on.
It really does. Like some of that stuff is hard, and it's only gotten worse. And I've really had a lot of frustration in trying to even sort through Game Pass stuff to find games that work for a particular situation that I'm in with my kids. Right? Like it can be tough.
Yeah. So like to the extent that this might turn out to just kind of be Siri for the Xbox interface around the UI and not the contents of games, that seems kind of useful.
Yeah.
I think some of the in-game stuff maybe has a lot to prove.
TBD on that. And again, everybody should be concerned about like, okay, what are we doing with this data?
Yeah.
And what are the parameters around it?
Mm-hmm.
I know you're right. Sometimes it feels like such a fucking losing battle.
It really does.
It's a lost battle.
When you say that, I I have such a hard time summoning the energy to care about the data because I mean, I know I should and do in principle.
Yeah.
What the fuck am I going to do though?
I don't know. It really, I know I'm with you. It's like deflating because sometimes it feels like I just said before, we've already lost that battle. The data's already there.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I even feel bad when it has that little checkbox that's like, hey, do you want to just send your telemetry to this developer so they can understand, which I assume is like, in the purest hearted sense, balance issue, crash issues. They want the data to make their game better. Not like, hey, we want to use this to market back to you in some way.
Right.
You know?
Like, I don't know if I should feel bad about this. I have reflexively started opting out of every single one of those I find in any context. Yeah. Because just as a general response or backlash to the aggressive collection.
I know.
Like, and there are cases where small indie games, yes, I do feel kind of bad about it. And maybe I'll go opt back into some of those, but
I always feel like in some way it's like there is a nefarious use case that is probably not being overly cynical to assume could happen with it, right? Like there's like, yeah, now you know what to put on in front of me for a loot box, right? Or you know, most players are going to spend more money if they are doing this thing that I'm doing, or whatever it is, right? Which look, devs got to eat too, but data. Big data. So that's got a rolling release here. I think did you mention?
It seems like
first the phones,
just mobile.
Okay.
Xbox insiders can get an early preview on mobile soon.
So yeah,
I mean, you know, who knows how this trial goes, or if they even like big companies try and then kill off features all the time. Like, who knows if this ever even makes it to console, or maybe everybody loves it and it's everywhere in a year.
Yeah. Look, yeah. We'll see.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of Stranger Things happening, if you missed it, this is more of a PSA here, just a shout out. Mostly for people that are working in the games industry. This came out of GDC, but the United Video Game Workers Cross CWA, I guess, is a new union. That's the Communication Workers of America. Is a new union that is, what is the terminology? It is anyone can join.
Yeah, union? It's an anyone can join type unions versus the kind that have to organize within a workplace.
A direct join union?
Direct join.
Is that the term?
So yeah, it's dues paying, minimum of $15 or 1% of your salary or annual income, whichever is greater. Sounds like basically to me, anyone can join that works in the games industry, and I believe this is open to United States and Canada right now. There's a whole list of what they consider being inside the games industry. You can go look at their FAQ. Again, this is much more of a public service announcement than a story about this. But it sounds like they are, I'm just going to scroll their fact down here, providing services for people within the games industry. This isn't necessarily like, hey, we're going into negotiations for base salary and things like that.
Right.
At this point, I'm just going to read what you get by joining. By joining our union, you get to be part of building a fighting movement for workers' rights in the video game industry, or joining the struggle. By coming together with others in our industry through our union, we could pool our collective strength, abilities, and resources to take on the massive corporations that dominate our industry and art form. Then the specifics here are, additionally, our members will have access to things like legal support, assistance from professional organizers, training opportunities, and other community resources. So sounds like they're trying to build a community that can then have more leverage and support for workers within the video games industry.
Yeah. I noticed there's a line in here. We demand an industry with fair hours, fair pay, and not to be discarded at the whim of shareholders. And then also one of the clauses is free of harassment.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see this thing that Ubisoft has basically set up like a legal strike team, like anti-harassment strike team around the launch of Assassin's Creed Shadows?
Yes, to protect the developers.
Which is just a fucking insane sign of the times, I guess I would say.
Totally. It is also probably worth mentioning that this is, you do not have to make your employer aware. I know there's some people might be fear for their job. You do not have to disclose that you are joining this union if you are working within the games industry. So there it is out there. I think it's a move in a right direction, I
mean, this is where things are trending now, and there's still a lot of struggle left to be done. Obviously, like en masse unionization has not happened in the US games industry, but like the inroads over the last handful of years have been pretty significant, especially considering how little movement that whole thing got for a very long time until people started becoming a little more conscious of like the actual workplace environment in video games.
Yeah, and maybe they can bring some of these more disparate but very powerful and well-meaning groups together under an umbrella. They're a place for worker placement, resources for bringing, helping find work, resources for being maybe terminated without cause. You know, like these things to have a place for people to look, because sounds like it's always been a rough industry, and it sounds like it's not getting any better.
We've seen firsthand the last few years in particular.
Yeah, and also, if you're in the industry and want to have a voice in how this thing goes, this seems like an opportunity to have a little bit of empowerment for that. So that's you can go check that out at uvw-cwa.org. There's a fact there if you're interested in it. We're not in the games industry; we just cover it. So this is.
Yes, I was just looking at their which disciplines are considered video game workers.
Yeah,
I don't think we rate.
I don't think
definitely don't.
So I'll be curious if anybody, how this goes, and if anybody's in it or part of it. Like to hear how it's progressing along there. Customer service also part of this is listed on that thing. So you should go check out that fact if you work around video games.
Yeah, even like IT, and legal, marketing, like all kind of anybody who's involved in the release of a video game, it looks like.
Yeah. All right. The next step would be to, if there were more power there, maybe some companies help pay for your membership in there. I don't know if that's it's never how I've ever seen dues work.
Too much, yeah,
yeah, in my life. But all right, Brad. Last story here.
Oblivion, The Elder Scrolls number 4.
I thought you were just.
Okay. No, wait, are we embracing the void? Let's embrace the void. Let's do it.
It's coming for all of us. I promise.
Hell yeah! Finally,
soon enough.
Oblivion. Hell of a game.
I don't know if we've talked about this before. These rumors have been swirling for quite a while now. There is purportedly an Unreal Engine-based remake of The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion on the way.
Okay.
Details have kind of leaked out here and there over the last few months. The latest hit here, which is why I'm bringing it up now, is that both noted leaker Nate the Hate, great name, I know we've discussed him before, but also corroborated by Video Games Chronicle, has said that Oblivion remake is actually coming very soon, reveal in the next few weeks. He says coming out in June. Video Games Chronicle says they've heard from sources it could come out as soon as next month.
Jeez.
Okay.
So that could even be like an announce and release or very close together kind of thing.
Huh.
Kind of the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I very randomly a week or two ago landed on a Medium post from a games writer and lecturer. What is his name? Logan Taylor. Never heard of this guy before, but it's actually a really fascinating little deep dive into the bizarre Radiant AI in Oblivion and how and I never really realized this, consciously. I guess I intuited it from playing these games, but they kind of dialed back the Radiant AI in subsequent Elder Scrolls and Bethesda games, because the Radiant AI in Oblivion was the thing that made characters just have schedules that they followed,
Right.
Like they ate on a schedule, they cheated on their spouses on a schedule,
they did drugs on a schedule.
Yes, the skooma addicts would make a trek to a skooma den on a regular interval. This is a really interesting little look at how that stuff works internally under the hood. I'll try to link that in the notes for this podcast.
But not all of it, if I'm understanding correctly, would also be just predictable and scripted, right? They would have wants or desires based on other things,
and straight up scores attached to things like how responsible they are, meaning how likely are they to break the law to get what they want or need, type stuff. So it was a combination of reading that blog and reflecting on the weird stuff they tried with Oblivion and then have walked back, and also just the general conversation point around Bethesda games since the beginning of time, from people who really wish they would get off their tech, off of their engine, and move to something else. You've heard that every time we had a game of the year featuring a Bethesda game, right?
Yes. I've probably said it.
Right. Or another big one was when they bought id, which has been 15 years ago now or more. But when they bought id Software, a lot of people were man, now they can move the Elder Scrolls and Fallout to id Tech. it's going to look and run so much better, but they never do, you know, because the whole point has always been like, oh, their tech is so bespoke for the types of games they make. Like they can't do anything else. Purportedly, they are doing something else here, which is having developer Virtuous port the game to Unreal Engine.
Interesting.
So like, I feel like this is going to be, if all of these rumors are true, I am extremely curious what kind of test case this is going to be for porting one of the, and in fact, maybe the most technically complex from a behavioral standpoint, Bethesda games to a different engine. I don't know what that's going to look like, but it might be weird.
I don't think I ever, gosh, I should look and see if I finished Oblivion.
I know I didn't.
I don't think I did.
Close all the gates?
I don't think I did, no.
Okay.
I think I played a lot of that game and mostly just screwed around with the AI and exploring stuff. And like, I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that I feel like most of the meme videos I see from Bethesda games to this day are Oblivion memes. Like that game just generates so many goddamn ridiculous clips of characters acting in strange ways.
Mm-hmm.
It was also like, and refresh my memory in case I'm getting this wrong, but look, I was a Morrowind guy. I really liked Morrowind. Oblivion hit like, it was because it was on the consoles. I feel like it hit in a way that was really intense.
Yeah, Morrowind came out on Xbox, but later.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't think it was simultaneous launch. And like, I feel like the Xbox itself, the first one was kind of at the tail end by the time that happened, or maybe I'm conflating dates. But anyway, like Oblivion was a huge launch not that long after the 360 came out. And it was day and date on console for the first time. And yeah, it was a huge, also like when Morrowind came out, I straight up couldn't run it. Like my computer was full on not good enough to run Morrowind. So being able to play the new Elder Scrolls game on your Xbox 360 day one, not have to worry about that stuff, was a huge deal. It looked amazing at the time also.
Yeah.
And of course also, you know, like we're talking about here, just like really crazy, ambitious AI stuff that didn't quite come together.
And then obviously Skyrim was its own category of sales, but yes, for sure. But this essay kind of goes into, and again, I guess I never really consciously realized this, that like, you know, the types of encounters you would have in subsequent Bethesda games were much more scripted and kind of rigidly presented to the player, as opposed to having these sprawling kind of deterministic systems of agents just moving around the world, eating the same apple over and over for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Bring back the Radiant AI, but in space.
I mean, you know, it makes me wonder, like, are they just going to dumb down this port to Unreal if this is real?
Oh, interesting.
Like, what if none of this is even in there?
What if it's got actual AI?
It seems like they could easily just like quietly sweep this stuff under the rug and not port it over. Like that. This is, you know,
but people are going to notice if they do that.
Yes, it is going to be a fascinating experiment because every time an old game gets ported and remastered in a way like this, like diehard fans of those old games, like fine tooth comb everything in that remaster, right?
Right.
Like, oh, they fucked up this, like even like Nintendo Switch Online stuff when they brought like Ocarina of Time over, people were nitpicking the water transparency effects in the version of Ocarina of Time that ended up on the Switch Online service. You know, like people are rabid about tracking the details of new versions of their favorite games.
What do they change? What do they fuck up, etc.?
Right. So if this comes out with like radically altered AI for a game that was notable for having weird AI, like that's going to be really fascinating to watch.
Like, yeah. I'm thinking to myself, like, what level of scared are you to do something like that? Like, I understand they're probably polling the electorate a little bit and trying to figure out what people actually want from this game, but I honestly believe that no one wants to play a version of Oblivion where people aren't fucking weird. Like, that's half the joy of that
100%,
game.
100%. If this comes out and looks way better, but people are not able to generate the same ridiculous 10-second clips to post on social media of characters acting all crazy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a huge, like, frankly, like a huge marketing miss for them, you know, like that would actually be like a huge missed opportunity for people to not promote the game in that way.
But it does seem like kind of backing up a little bit from just the Radiant AI, the rumor of the remake does make it sound like this is maybe less of bringing Oblivion to Unreal and remaking Oblivion.
Yeah, like
they're reworking that story has a lot of rumors about them.
Well, you kind of have to, I think.
There was another leak in January that we did not talk about then, that apparently they are reworking a bunch of systems, core systems in the game as they port it over. stamina, sneaking, blocking, archery, hit reaction, and HUD are the things that they say are being extensively reworked for this port.
Yeah,
so you're already pretty fundamentally changing some aspects of it.
Yeah, so I would not be entirely shocked if that weird AI stuff just doesn't make it in at all.
Is Oblivion one of those jump a lot to increase jumping?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. Fantastic.
Got to get your athletic score up.
Can't wait to jump a lot in UE5. What if it's a real looker? What if this is the game that comes out and you're like, oh my god, this Oblivion is the best looking game out there?
Yeah, I don't know. It is a UE5 game. Those games tend to look pretty good.
Yeah. All right. And that's anywhere from in a month or two to a question mark. So,
yep. Or maybe it doesn't exist.
Or maybe it doesn't exist.
We just spent 10 minutes talking about nothing.
No, we spent 10 minutes talking about Radiant AI.
Yeah, that essay I thought was very entertaining. I will try to link it on the description for this podcast.
Yes, that was Logan Taylor, and it was a Medium post, right?
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for the news. A lot of rumor, speculation, unknowns there, and a little public service announcement for the union stuff. GDC is still happening. Will be happening, I think, for the rest of this week, I guess. That's going to do it. We're up to the emails. Brad Shoemaker.
Mm-hmm.
Any emails there?
Email me.
Yeah.
Email me.
Where do people send the emails?
Oh, they send them to podcast@nextlander.com.
Right.
Wait, I'm sorry, what? Podcast@nextlander.com.
That's
maybe
my email address, so send them to me.
Maybe you didn't hear me. It's podcast@nextlander.com. Care of Alex Navarro.
Yeah.
Three times. That's the cognitive. That's the magic cognitive trick.
Mm-hmm.
I'll lock it in.
Nathan, from somewhere in Canada.
Okay.
I'm in Canada, and in light of recent rhetoric, I'm thinking about bug out bags again.
Oh.
This is addressed to Vinny. May be relevant soon. What do you recommend having in there?
Oh no! Oh, I just mentioned this. Nathan, not the first person to reach out to me in the near past. Look, it's different reasons here, different things going on. If you have a bag packed to get the hell out of town, it's got to be geared toward what your plan is for where you want to get the hell out. Is my 2 cents on this stuff. So things that you can't go wrong with, I'd say money, cash money in probably small bills, maybe some big bills, enough where I think like, hey, what do you think a hotel by you might cost if you need to go somewhere? What do you think renting a car might cost? I don't know. It might be too much for you. But if you couldn't get to a bank, right? If for some reason or another, lines at the bank, whatever. Some snacks. Might be stuck on a bus for a while or like whatever, some water. And then really it kind of depends on what you're doing. I think personally, like, do you need phone numbers on pieces of paper in case your cell phone's dead and you can't charge it? Do you need like if your phone died and you had to borrow somebody's phone, do you know your parents or your friends' phone numbers off the top of your head? Maybe it's good to have those printed out. I do. In my bag because if I lost my phone or if it were dead, I didn't have a chance to charge it, that would be a tough thing for me to recall. I keep a change of clothes. I keep 24 hours clothes in there. I keep 48 hours of underwear and socks and then a pair of pants in there. Light stuff that's just like, hey, if I gotta move real quickly and I'm in a situation where I want to change my clothes, that'd be nice, or have a pair of clothes. I have in mind, but I don't know how useful it is. Eye mask or earplugs if you're a light sleeper, if you have to spend a night in a crowded place like a shelter or something like that. What I've read is they're noisy. I think, knock on wood, not had to spend a night in a shelter, but a lot of people have, and the stuff I've read about that experience is it can be very noisy and they keep the lights on. So people recommend eye masks and earplugs if you think that might be in your future. But really, look up if you're talking about natural disasters. It's just going to be so different for everybody. Like Brad, you've got wildfires and earthquakes. We've got hurricanes and maybe wildfires now, but and you really just got like, would you put a mask in your bag, Brad, versus would I have a mask in mine, right? Like, or I've read about people who keep a set of eye goggles in their mask because when they were fleeing the fires in California, it was hard to drive with the smoke getting in their eyes. So they keep airtight goggles in their bag. Like, that's not necessarily something I would need here. I probably need more waterproof stuff. So I have one of those notepads that you can write. It's called Write in Rain, because if I have to leave a note to be like, hey, I went to this house in the rain during a hurricane, taped to the door, it needs to survive the wet. So that kind of stuff. Sorry, I can spend a long time talking about this.
No, this is good info.
What I don't recommend is getting like going down the road of like, I need a hatchet to kill a zombie. Like, that's
sure.
Like,
that's okay. You're just being fanciful at that point.
Yeah,
like,
but hey, look, that's where like you start looking up stuff. It's like, that's not really. You'd be very practical. Think about your situation and think about where you might want to go. Like, if you had a natural disaster and you had to leave your home in 24 hours, where would you go, and then build for that. I only had 1 or 2 cases where I had to leave in a hurry, and it was thankfully not an emergency, but I was glad I had a bag packed with clothes, obviously toiletries, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have deodorant, toothpaste, in that in mind. But with a family, it's a pain in the butt. I've got one for each of my kids and my wife, and I have to check them every year because the kids grow out of the clothes. So like, if you have like a change of clothes, but this is kind of a sadder tale, but it was a use case for this bag. When we found out that Ryan had passed away, I was able to just throw my bag in the back of my car and just head over to Dave's, where we went, and stay overnight there without having to pack or whatever. I was, I could get there in a hurry because that was a very weird situation.
I don't think I realized you did that.
Yeah. So I didn't have kids at the time. I was actually at the office when I found out.
Oh.
We just swung by home. I grabbed my bag and like we went straight to Dave's. Which was, it wasn't an emergency. It wasn't that time sensitive, but it was on the way, and everybody was kind of like freaked out, as you might imagine.
I get it. I didn't find out until like midnight.
Yeah, no, it was a weird situation. So that's my recommendation. Really though, like maybe a flashlight too, but no, think about your own personal. There are a lot of resources out there. Just stay away from the ones that seem like they are zombie apocalypse sites.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of research about real people who have gone through these things that, and mostly what they will say is figure out what's going on in your neck of the woods. What do you want to do?
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Like, Brad, are you going to go camp in the woods?
Probably not.
Probably not, right? You're probably going to try and get a hotel somewhere.
Yeah, or maybe row a boat somewhere.
Okay, well then you need to have like a boat ready. Anyway, I'll talk about it in another start my other podcast about surviving 2025.
Prepping for 2026.
Yeah, that's there might be some demand for that.
There is no shame in having a plan.
No. There is some shame in maybe letting that plan getting a little spiraling that out off into some more fanciful ideas.
Don't let it define you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll read this. I've been sitting on this email for 2 or 3 weeks, but it's sort of related a bit from Brandon in Hawaii.
Okay.
About electrical stuff. This was following up on a Ramblecast conversation.
All right.
From not long ago. A recent Ramblecast went into solar and battery backups. We are flush with those systems here in Kauai. The island also mainly runs off solar power as well, though our rates push 50 cents a kilowatt hour. As an electrical contractor, my advice is as follows. Solar isn't necessary, and solar contractors will mark up those panels a ton, even with the rebates. If you do it, don't do it to save money, do it to save the environment.
What if I do both?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if the economics
are different depending on where you are, but
are changing to the point that you could do both, maybe. Number 2, battery backups are clutch.
They're expensive.
Not only do they help keep you powered up and uninterrupted, but it saves your electronics if there's a power loss or brownout. The wear and tear on small circuits is amazing when you drop down to 80 volts. That happens here a lot with overhead power lines.
Interesting.
The setup I'd recommend is as follows.
Okay.
A grid-tied bidirectional charging unit with an electric car like a Ford Lightning.
Yeah. I know some people who feed that back in. Yeah.
Not a wall battery unit like a Tesla wall. Yeah, this is crazy to me. I did not even consider. I just thought maybe this would be too much wear and tear on your car battery to want to do this, but mainly because you'll be using the batteries all the time. Because you use it while driving, they are not just hanging out on a wall waiting to pick up during power loss. From there, you can add solar eventually and maybe wall units to have a supplemental backup system when the car is not charging or if it's not plugged in. Charged or plugged in. Overall cost, you're likely going to spend $10,000 for the bidirectional charging install, new meter, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But it should be solar ready. Solar ready. Mm-hmm. Also, there's the cost of the car.
Right.
Wall batteries are another 20,000-ish if you don't do the car.
They're super expensive, and I always worried about, like, I don't have one, obviously, or if they're not obvious, like, oh, that's another technology that seems to be rapidly progressing. Would you replace that wall battery after $20,000?
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe you can hold out a little longer for something more reasonable.
Also, like, I have to replace so many rechargeable batteries, not all the time, but often enough where that makes me very scared. I have to go. I just ordered a replacement battery for my PS5 controller because it only keeps a charge for like an hour and a half now. Right.
Yeah, so that's why I was kind of like blown away at the idea of running your house off your car, or not running it off the car, but using the car as a backstop for the, for brownouts and stuff. Like I wouldn't have even considered a car battery having enough capacity to run all the stuff that might be running in a house, even for a short period of time.
Car's pretty intense to drive.
Probably a lot of battery in there, I guess.
Yeah, it's a lot of battery. And, I don't know enough about it, but I do know people do use that bidirectional part of their car. But they are probably a more robust cycling of battery for that kind of charge and wear. But
yeah.
I don't know enough about it, not an engineer.
Yeah, granted, he's also mentioning, is the Lightning just an F-150, or are there other Lightnings, or is it just the pickup?
I think it's, as far as I know, last time I looked, it was just the pickup from Ford.
So that thing probably does have a pretty damn big battery in it.
But I've heard other people have, like, I don't know if it was the Volt or something, being able to do it off of smaller cars. But I think the F-150 Lightning has a port just for feeding back out. I think. I don't know. Again, I've only read about this stuff, and I did one person I know who said they did the bidirectional thing with their electric car. I don't know. I would love to get solar panels and a battery, though.
Yeah.
At some points.
Sure.
Like I said before, my electric bill is bananas now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the stuff we've talked about on the Ramblecast. It's not just the, like, how long before you make up the money.
Yeah.
There's also the element of, if I was getting free energy out of the sky,
yeah,
there's a lot of frivolous stuff around here that I would feel way less bad about running all the time.
Yeah, this server, it's like a little guilt-free, a little more guilt-free.
Like the 100 watts of hard drives that are constantly going in the corner of this room, I would feel way less bad about.
Yeah. I mean, that sun's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. We're just wasting it.
You think you could build? Okay, this is like a Dan Riker question, so I should probably just ask him or save it for.
You think you could build yourself a sun?
Can you make your own sun? No, could you put enough solar panels? Okay, you could. What is enough solar panels where you would affect the temperature of the Earth? Where you've absorbed so much of the radiation from the sun that it actually affects something on the planet. And is that, I know there's like so much waste, so somebody could be like, in my mind, I imagine you could cover the entire planet with solar panels. It would still not affect anything, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what wavelength are solar panels absorbing.
Yeah,
like I don't know if any of the heat energy is actually being absorbed or not.
I don't know. I'm sure this is a question I could look up in somebody in one of those like Science for Idiots books.
Yes, you should ask Dan though.
I should ask Dan and be like, Dan, big question.
Dan just bought a CRT.
Well, it's going around, huh?
Dan just bought. In fact, it's a 27-inch Vega, Trinitron Vega.
Jeez,
wow, the classic.
Almost similar, almost exactly like the one I have back home.
Finally, he got
it for $20.
Play Punch-Out in peace.
Yep.
We should mention, because this was on the Ramblecast, you have a CRT.
Yes, I'm now in possession of a small CRT that I'm very excited about.
Yeah. Any other emails?
Yeah, we could do one more quick one, or I don't know how quick. Jerry in Wisconsin. Question for the 90s music experts. Who's the best grunge band?
Ooh.
What's the best grunge album? I like Dirt.
Damn, that was going to be my answer.
Frankly, I was going to say nothing against all the other bands I liked in the 90s. For whatever reason, Alice in Chains is the one I think about now.
I think they were the best band of that scene.
And like, I mean, I guess you could even nitpick like how grunge they are versus, I mean, they're like a little more, like they definitely are.
Spiritually,
but
they absolutely are.
They're a little more metal adjacent than...
I mean, a lot of grunge is pretty metal adjacent. It's very riff heavy, you know?
You're not wrong.
Rotting Pinata by Sponge.
That's a decent record.
It's a decent record.
I mean, okay. You do have to kind of separate out the larger alternative rock from the specificity of grunge. Grunge is not exclusively Seattle-based, but it is very heavily Seattle-based. It is very lodged in the early 90s. There isn't nearly as much of that in the mid to late 90s. I would say it's probably Alice in Chains' Dirt or Pearl Jam's 10.
Okay. Wow. I wouldn't have expected you to say Pearl Jam.
I don't love a lot of their output past that album. I do think Versus is good, but I never really got super into that band. But I do think 10 is about as important a grunge album as there is.
Oh, yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, it's the cliched answers of that and Nevermind, right?
I mean, Nevermind is also a really great record. Like, its outsized reputation aside, there's really not much, like, that isn't a banger on that album.
Is Nirvana, is that firmly in grunge?
100%.
Oh, yeah.
100%?
Extremely.
Okay.
Extremely. I don't know. I'm looking at a list here. Like, I don't really know a lot of the smaller Seattle bands. Like, I went back and listened to a little bit of Mother Love Bone.
Yeah, never my thing.
Recently, just kind of as a historical lesson.
Give me some names that are on that list.
Is Bush on that list?
I think Bush is not.
Bush
really
is like grunge revival.
Sure.
Second wave grunge?
Second wave grunge. There you go.
This is Wikipedia. This is also entirely subjective, but they are listed on here under UK grunge.
Yeah, I think they're in that spirit.
Yeah, I mean, like bands I've heard of on this list, like 7 Year Bitch, Green River, the Melvins, of course, Mudhoney, of course, Screaming Trees. They're all the names that you heard back in the day.
I feel like the Melvins kind of exist in their own weird noise universe that's a little outside just traditional grunge, but I mean, they're part of that scene, so I get it.
Yeah, actually, sorry, they've got a whole, that was just the Seattle list, like the elsewhere list is also a bunch of Babes in Toyland, Dinosaur Jr., Hole, L7, Smashing Pumpkins, like, it pains me to say it, but Smashing Pumpkins is probably up there. Despite whatever you think about Billy Corgan.
Well, I don't think much of them, but I mean, there's at least a few Smashing Pumpkins albums that I think are incredibly important and good. That said, I always thought of them as a little outside the traditional grunge realm. I think the Chicago space rock thing is kind of its own thing.
Okay.
I mean, they certainly came up at the same time as grunge, so I get the association, but like Smashing Pumpkins is more like Hum than they are Pearl Jam,
Okay.
Soundgarden? Grunge?
A 1,000%.
Extremely. I always respected Soundgarden, but I was never that into them.
I love Soundgarden. Yeah, fuck. Super Unknown might be in... It's on that Mount Rushmore of grunge albums, for sure. I don't know if it's my outright favorite. I think Dirt still might be, but Super Unknown is super up there. Like,
having listened to Dirt a lot in the last 2-3 years, like, that album is fucking mind-blowing.
Kind of unimpeachable.
So if you got a Pearl Jam and you got Soundgarden as some pretty key grunge people, is Temple of the Dog the most grunge?
Sure.
It's the most distilled grunge.
Oh, yeah.
is that just pure grunge at that point?
It's kind of like a grunge smoothie.
Are there grunge revival bands? Like you said, like Bush as like a second wave, but are people going back to that?
Not really. They kind of skipped over that and went right to the new metal revival.
Okay.
That's rough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the way I would have gone, but that's just me.
What would you say, Alex or Brad? What would you say one or two kind of key features of a grunge era would be, aside from the clothing and the dress, like of the music?
You have to be of Gen X age to be in one of those bands from that era. And also, I think there is a very specific thing about grunge where it's the riffs. Like, a lot of alternative rock has maybe a little bit more in common with like 3-chord punk in some ways. The riff aspect of grunge, I think, is very important.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like fairly heavy.
Yeah.
Right?
But not all the way heavy, not all the way metal.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. I'm sorry.
Also just like kind of a melancholy vibe to everything.
Yes, there's a little bit. That's what I mean by the Gen X thing. You have to have that specific flavor of disaffection.
Yes. Like there's not a lot of upbeat, happy grunge.
No. Okay, sorry. Can I pause you here?
Let's keep going. Let's go with it.
Look, like I don't know music genres very well. What's like an Alanis Morissette?
Lilith Fair.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, no, I think what it is it's not. She's more in the alternative space.
Yeah,
I think.
I was going to say just more plain alternative rock.
But specifically, she came up in that era where there were just a lot of women singer-songwriters that were very alternative or alternative adjacent.
What is Korn?
New metal.
New metal.
That's just the straight new metal?
Straight up. That is the fucking, you are snorting a pure line of new metal.
like they are among the prototypical new metal bands, right?
Like
it's them, Deftones, Limp Bizkit. There's a few other bands.
Okay. Interesting. I don't think I have a clear line of like where all the camps sit here. Okay. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you for indulging.
So anyway, is there no Sonic Youth on? I guess Sonic Youth is not really grunge.
I mean,
they're not on this list.
A
little more experimental, maybe.
Yeah, they are, but I do feel like a lot of what they do is very grunge-like, and they are certainly in that era.
Yeah.
Okay, how about early Radiohead?
They're on here. Like quite literally, this lists Radiohead early work,
like pre OK Computer.
Like I'd say, like parts of the bends, and maybe not quite.
I mean, Creep is almost a grunge song. I still think it's more alternative rock than it is grunge.
Can we list song 2 on this list?
I mean, that's like a grunge parody, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Like
so that does kind of count. I mean, it's in the weird way a Weird Al grunge song would still technically count.
Sure.
Interesting. Genres are always that's a tough one, right?
Yeah. The other thing is, music genres don't really matter. It's just a way to categorize things and to sort of like group scenes together. But ultimately, everyone's definition is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, I don't know who makes these decisions, but I just noticed on this Wikipedia page, the big 4 of grunge are typed in bold, and the 4 are Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden.
Great.
Yeah.
Which I think that probably checks out.
I think that's your Mount Rushmore, 100%.
Yeah. Who do you think, or maybe who was influenced by each other? Like, was one of them before the others? Was like hey, like, I listened to this Nirvana record and I was like blown away, and that's when I started Alice in Chains. Or
no, I mean, I think they were all probably influeed by other bands from other similar places and times. Sure. Like, I mean, I know by no means their only influence, but Kurt Cobain was a huge Pixies fan, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So you think they all have like maybe some similar?
I think it is a mixture of a response to where metal was at that time, which was the dying breath of hair metal. And I think it was also them getting influenced by things like post-punk from the 80s, like you said, like Pixies, and even some of the more like no-wave stuff from the late 70s, and also the sort of gothic rock stuff that was coming up through a lot of the 80s. Like there's, I think bands like The Cure and similar ilk probably at least had some like tonal influence on those bands as well.
Interesting.
That's my opinion. I'm not a rock historian. I'm just a guy who listens to a lot of fucking music.
No, look, you've listened to a lot of music.
Maybe more than I should.
If you want to hear more about that, you can go check out the Ramblecast and learn about. Wait, was it the Ramblecast we talked about Yacht Rock? I think it was.
Yes, I watched that documentary on Yacht Rock.
Yeah,
quite a lot of Yacht Rock talk on the Ramblecast this week.
Can hear much more about that. But is that it for the emails for this week?
Yeah. Yep.
That's going to do it. And that's going to do it for the show. Let's see what's going on here. We've got, Monday, we went with Will Smith on a Fortnite journey.
That sure was.
Yeah, it didn't look Fortnite. I respect. I have admiration for it because I think it's actually a solid gameplay experience. Still didn't get me. Like, I've been in and out of Fortnite quite a bit, and it still didn't hook me like maybe like original PUBG and even Apex Legends did.
Yeah,
I think this is a generational thing.
Could be. I know. Look, there are a lot of people I know that are peers that play Fortnite, and
but they got in on the ground floor where we really didn't.
Well, also, it's gotten very crashy.
Apparently,
I got to try out the Switch version on my PC. Which was a fun experience.
Let's see. Hey, I think you might be overestimating some of the Switch there. It was you definitely turned down. What did you run in? DirectX?
They have something in the settings. You can pick DirectX 11 or 12 or performance mode.
Oh,
which just presets a ton of settings to make it like Will literally said. It's the Switch renderer. Like it's basically a high res version of what you would be getting on the Switch.
Yeah,
but it did not crash again after that.
No transparencies on the water. Nothing.
Nope. Yeah, no foliage, no anything.
Yeah. So you can check that out. That was on Monday. That stream is up. Tuesday, Alex and I, we mentioned at the top of the show, played Assassin's Creed. I might be trying to re-upload that video, but you can go check that out to see what's up there. Hopefully, they can squeeze a couple of more frames, or not frames, I don't know, quality settings out of that encoder. But that was a lot of fun. Heard us talk enough about Assassin's Creed Shadows at the top of the show. And then Friday, we are hoping to finish up X-Files.
Yeah.
I was going there. As I was monkeying around with some of our settings, I was like, okay, what's the next video we're going to test this out on? And it's the X-Files from the FMV that I'm playing from the PS1. So maybe not the best test of a high action frame by frame game you need to render, but I will enjoy being there playing that game regardless. So you can check that out. We had a Ramblecast, like we just mentioned, with Yacht Rock talk. You can watch the video, see Brad's monitor behind him. That's over on the Patreon. We got the Watchcast. That's over on the Patreon. We're getting close to finishing out our dystopian cities a month.
Which means you guys need to come up with your dang documentaries soon.
I do. I've heard this Yacht Rock one is pretty good. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll help me expand my musical genres.
We'll see.
That's over on the Patreon as well. We got Never Been a Better podcast going up soon. Could be as early as this week if I get a chance to work on it on Thursday. We'll see. I didn't put it on the schedule just to be safe. But that'll be up there on that Patreon as well, along with another Vinny and Mike in Total War Warhammer 3 going up on Monday over on patreon.com/Nextlander. You can go there, find a tier that's right for you. Not only get those goodies, you support us and you support the guests we have on the show as well. There is one tier there that gets their names written. Well, they are written.
Well, they do write them down.
Yeah,
I thought you were about to say they get their names rizzed.
They get their names read on this here show. Alex Navarro, can you read our mysterious benefactors for this week?
I most certainly can. Our mysterious benefactors for this week are Sean Miller, RRE, Alpha Rhythm, Infelicitous Rips, David L., Kelly F., Brian Lucier, currently listening to the March Q&A, and this is Skywarp's Proof of Life, John Hubbard, NXL Retirement Fund, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deirdre finally bought a new bed, Gary Pejsky, Robert Fisher, Bunny Fiend, there's an F1 in there, just to get the F1 bit in there, Jad Rita, Statics, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Randy Alderson, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, Huge Ass, and Tyler Trees.
Thanks for all our mysterious benefactors out there. Still gets a giggle out of me. Thanks for all our mysterious benefactors, and thanks for everybody for supporting us over at patreon.com/Nextlander. Look, I got a minute here before the music runs out and I have to start the next music for the outro here. So I'm going to say once again, I've had a lot of fun playing stuff with Will Smith, having Abby Russell on to join us for our adventures in Rage and Bloom, or Bloom and Rage. Lost
we're
Records.
done with them now. No more.
No more is what I came here to say. No, we only make that possible with your support and you going over to patreon.com/Nextlander and supporting us. We like to compensate those people for their time. It's great to have them. We feel good about it. Hopefully they feel good about it. And
there's so little to feel good about these days. So let us have that one, all right?
Same with Never Been a Better podcast. You make it possible to have these wonderful people come through and have a really supportive community and a supportive experience that isn't just relying on people's goodwill. So thank you very much for your goodwill, but also for your support over on the Patreon. Couldn't do it without you. And with that being said, that's enough breath to start our outro music. It's probably started already. Thank you very much, Alex Navarro.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brad Shoemaker.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week.